Okay, cool. Okay. Let me see. Oh, ba-da-ba-ba. Alright, I hope that's all going okay. How's YouTube faring? I hope that's okay. Right, let me see. I'm sure that will be fine. I'm gonna hope everything goes okay. Alright, let's see. Oh, here we go. This one, yeah. Banging. Right, it's saying that's excellent. This should be fun. Hopefully that's the power of the new parser. That should be fine. Let me see. Wish. Let me see. Where is it? Copy this. Bang, bang, bang. Oops. Wahoo. Bang. Smash it in there. That should be good. Hopefully that's fine. Let's see. Merville was too early, but that was probably like yesterday. Oh, when was that messaged? Is it able to say? No. It's weird. Put user timeout. Let's see. Right, something will probably come from it. Let's see. Let me see. What can I do? That door didn't need to be closed. Analytics? Stream health? Stream is healthy. That's good. Let me see if that edits. Category gaming. Playlist audience. Paid promotion. Yada yada yada. No places. I'll add my own chapters. I won't need concepts. Uh, my tags this year. Game of the Year 2025. And I will add as many big ones that I'm going to be discussing. Feel free to skip ahead. Like this is just like a preamble. Um, before I actually start discussing Mario Kart World, Hollow Knight, Silksong, Hades 2. What else? Oh, they play a minimum role. Okay, I'm not too bothered. That'll be fine. Recording date and location is all live now. That should be fine. Yeah, okay. That should be fine. Let me see. Does anybody want to rush my stream? I wonder. Maybe, maybe not. But am I bothered? No. Right. Let's see. Let's get a start. How far into this broadcast am I actually? I'm already I'm already coming into 5 minutes. Um, that should be fine. I imagine that'd be fine. I think it's good just to Um, Good to just yap. I quite liked what I did last year. Right, okay, this is a. I'm still very awkward. I'm very awkward doing this by myself when I'm not alone in the household. Um, just as. Well, I say standard. Well, it is a standard. It's a fucking tier list. Like, of course it's gonna be standard. Like, this is the most default like discussion format on YouTube, but it's a good one. I can't really complain. Um, like in the previous year for 2024, I have kept track of like every piece of media that I consume, every new piece of media that I consume. So every movie I watched in 2025 for the first time, or the first time in a while, every new anime I watched, um, every TV show, and of course every game that I played, and any other extra things like events and stuff that I feel defined my media exposure per se in 2025. I took down a whole list. Um, Let me see, what were some examples of other things? So, other than games, really liked Down to Dawn. I need to go back to watching Mob Psycho 100 season 3 because I was watching that and then I came like really ill and then I haven't watched it since. In terms of TV show, really liked where is it? Severance. I watched Severance for the first time, season 1, and then season 2 was very good. What else? Game Changer, always a big fan. I think season 7 of Game Changer was probably the best season they've ever done. Definitely the most ambitious. Culinary Class Wars, I finished that like right at the end. At least I started it, I believe, right before the end of 2025. Currently in the middle of the second one. Very good film. In terms of movies, really digged the Chainsaw Man movie. What else? What else? In terms of events, I went to Gamescom, which was pretty big. I saw the 8-bit Big Band live. Fascinating, really good. And certainly seeing Auntie Donna live. That was nice. But in terms of games, I think for me this was quite a decent year for games. Even looking at the list here, I think there's a good chunk in here that I could probably list out as a not as much I've done in previous years, only 23, but a good chunk of these they kept me for like at least 50 hours. Like I think Mario Kart World is like on the verge of hitting that amount. I think 100 Line is fitting over 100 hours. Clair Obscur is like 80 hours. Apparently, Xenoblade Chronicles X was 80 hours. Donkey Kong Bonanza is like 50. Inazuma 11, I think I've reached 50. Same with Silk Song and Pokemon. Marvel Rivals, I think I've already put in 50 hours in. Yeah. Yeah, so as I'm doing this, Nintendo just released the like year in review. Turns out did put in like a ludicrous amount of time into 100 Line, which I already knew, but I didn't realize I put in like at least 80 hours into Xenoblade X. And I didn't realize Silksong would have been my third most played this year. What else? Oh yeah, about that. I realized like February was my lowest playtime for that month. I was thinking like, why on earth is that the reason? Turns out it was Marvel Rivals. I was really into Marvel Rivals back in February last year, so that's probably why. Um, right. But yeah, these are the 23 games that I played for the first time. So no really big replays, which was a bit bummed out. Not counting anything that I play with friends that much, unless I played it for a long, long time. So for example, didn't really include Peak. I've only played like one session with that. I wouldn't really include anything like a tabletop simulator, or even like a Jackbox. Jackbox is a very weird one. I did get the new one. I haven't had a chance to play it yet, and I think I have played. I think I got Party Pack 9 a good while ago anyway. So that's not really valid. Um, but these are the main games. Yeah, no big replays. If there was like a big replay, like I haven't revisited it in like a number of years, then I would choose to put it forward here. But these are all games I've tried for the first time. Um, yeah, all of them, which is nice. Well, I say that technically not true in Xenoblade X's case, but we'll get to it when we get to it. I've ordered in the list that I've begun playing them, so the order that it has appeared in my notes app, which I've kept track of for the entire 2025, as I've done in previous years. So it's a bit wild that we're now in 2026, entering yet another, starting off a new one, and seeing what will come from that. Right. Okay. Let's see. Just as I mentioned that, just before I forget, I do need to add the Traitors season 4. Oh no, I have already added it. Yeah, I've added that to my list for this year, which is good. It's a banger show. Right. Let's see. Starting off, Castlevania Symphony of the Night. Um, I say starting off. I think I should dictate how I'm actually going to be. What do these letters mean? I think they're quite. They differ from person to person. I think it's quite clear what S, A, B, C, and D mean. I will say that B is going to be good. That's the standard. A C is a meh or mixed. For the purpose of this, I'm just saying a meh. I think there's only like really going to be like 2 or 3 games I'm going to pick. D, I don't think anything is. I'm quite a positive person. Like even with one certain game, like I think a lot of people will be calling out, should belong in like D or lower. I did kind of appreciate parts of it. But this case, it's just going to be dropped. I do also have a separate category for a didn't finish. Let's see, where is it? Dropped. I would say dropped. I would say one above it. Add a row below. I'll put the same color. Right. Um, this one didn't finish. There are some that I haven't got around to finishing yet, but I do intend to. I think I'm only seeing 2, maybe 3, maybe. Um, that I don't feel like I wanna. I probably will say where I would be putting them, but I don't feel comfortable putting them in a specific position. But take the fact, like, given that they're short games, the fact that I didn't finish them for one reason or another, dropped. I think there's only one game in here that didn't finish means that I probably have dropped it, but I would have an intention to go back to it. This one I just have no intention to go back to. A, on the other hand, is great. Just a really great game. Just fantastic. S, peak. This should be like the cream of the crop, basically. I think I'm comfortable enough. I feel like there's going to be more nuance in the tiers this year. There's some games where I feel like, oh, this should be like in the tiers in between A and B, if that could even exist. But then it's very dicey making a B plus and a B, which I don't think is nice in a way. I don't know. It's a weird one. Right, I feel like I'm a bit sniffly today. Right, let's start off. Castlevania Symphony of the Night. I am putting this in good, starting off with good. I did enjoy this. I think I'm glad I played this because I have become more enamored with Metroidvanias over the years. Like I think I've done out of like the 5 core Metroid games. So that's including like the original and Zero Mission as one thing. Which I know is technically not true, but I'm counting it for this purpose. I only really need to play Samus Returns out the main 2D entries. Prime 1 I've played and I loved. We'll get into Prime 4 sadly last. um, but yeah, like stuff like Hollow Knight and um, Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, which was a banger game actually. That was really good. I've become to like really respect a lot of Metroidvanias over the years, and so I'm glad I kind of gave one that gave the Metroidvania its namesake. it definitely shows. For me, I feel like this is in like something in two parts. So the first act is very good. I really liked exploring Dracula's castle. It felt like very mysterious. I quite liked. Actually really liked the music of it as well. It gave it like this really cool like gothic vibe, which I mean is quite standard for Castlevania. But for me, this is my first Castlevania as well. Um, the action felt solid. Sometimes a little bit finicky, but mostly okay. Um, but yeah, mainly just going about exploring the castle. I thought it felt good, and then getting to the end, only to realize that's like a fake out ending. I still was like, I'm not satisfied. I feel like there is like some extra meat there that I'm not seeing. What on earth is going on? And it was kind of like fun trying to go out of my way to like find. Oh, like I've got like I think it's like these two rings. How do they like come into play together? What's important about them both? How do I then unlock the second act of the game that will allow me to progress to like I don't know if it is a true ending, but it's at the very least like I'd say the default ending. This is like the iconic bit where Dracula's castle flips upside down and you do like this reversed um version of what you just played through, which I think is a really neat idea, and I did appreciate that. But that's what it kind of dragged for me. I feel like it became a lot more combat heavy instead of exploration heavy, which is like that's kind of the point of a Metroidvania. I get it's weird judging Symphony of the Night on that basis, considering this is like the first one, but for me, it wasn't that. It wasn't the best. Um, like first impression going through the mirrored version of Dracula's Castle. I didn't really like it, to be honest. Not that it was bad necessarily, but I thought it was like a lot less impactful, and it became like a lot more of like a normal action platformer, without much more of a surprise because you've already seen those areas before. Um, Obviously, they are a lot different now that you're going from upside down. How you traverse them is a lot different, which I quite appreciate. But yeah, not as fun as going through it the default way. And that's mainly because I wasn't too keen on the combat. Not bad, but not great either. Like even some of the weapons like the shield, I was a bit confused of. That may be me just being shit and dumb. But it didn't feel the best to use. Um, I mean, it's something like great game. I did enjoy it. Um, Definitely recommend it. So I did pick it up. So it's part of the Requiem collection. Where I played Rondo of Blood as well, which I think I talked about last stream. Didn't like that one. I kind of like had to drop it because it was a bit too hard for me. I don't know if that's part of like the time released in, or I don't know. But it was a bit of a weird one. Right, I'm really hoping me blowing my nose didn't come up on stream. Um, and I'm not gonna be bothered enough to like try and like edit it out. I'm probably not gonna put this up as its own edited thing. I'm gonna try and keep it relatively distinct. Devil May Cry. If I was a bigger YouTuber, well, if I was a big YouTuber, I feel like this will ruffle a lot of feathers. I wasn't too into it. Um, it didn't really do much for me. I can respect it in a lot of regards. I'm just bringing up my notes here. I didn't have time to like do notes on all of the games. In terms of Devil May Cry, yeah, I was just kind of left kind of whelmed by it. If anything, underwhelmed, like for how much of a pedigree it has. I understand that 3 is the strongest one, so I would be tempted to give Devil May Cry 3 a shot at some point in the future. Um, but yeah, from the first one, it was kind of whatever to me. It felt like my point of reference is Bayonetta because I understand like they're both Kamiya games, and I definitely feel like the roots of Bayonetta in Devil May Cry. Like there's a lot of like similar moves and like similar ideas in a way. But the other thing I felt it was more obvious to see is that this, I believe, started out as a Resident Evil title, and I definitely saw that. Because I'm definitely comparing it to like my experience of Resident Evil 4 from a few years ago when I played that for the first time. The original, by the way, like I say original, the Wii port, but the bones of the original one, rather than the remake that came out 2 years back. Um, just like it in the rooms felt like quite small, and like, the camera could be like a bit finicky at times. The mission structure was like very weird. Like some would last like 5 minutes, some would last 20. Um, it just didn't feel right. It didn't feel good. I don't think it really suited and the mission structure and like getting those high scores and times. I don't think that necessarily suited a like a small scale environment like the castle you explore in Devil May Cry. Personally, um, yeah, just like nothing really made much of an impression on me. Yeah, can't say I was a fan of this one. I respect it. I would be tempted to pick up or well, try Devil May Cry 3 eventually, because apparently 5 is also very good. So I want to try 3. If I'm not enjoying 3, then I'm kind of giving up on the franchise. As in it's like not for me. But I do like Dante. Dante's pretty cool. Devil May Cry 2, I did go into this one thinking, well, that one was quite a short game. I feel like I could bash out Devil May Cry 2 if I wanted to. But I did have to drop it. Part of this was encouraged by kind of talks I've seen online about it, so it is kind of influenced slightly by outside opinions, which I know isn't like the best. But when you have limited time, you don't kind of want to waste it on something that you know isn't going to be bad, isn't going to be good, especially when I wasn't really that impressed by the first Devil May Cry. So to me, like after like only less than an hour in, like maybe an hour in, I think I did the first boss, maybe the first 2 levels. By that point, I was like, I've had enough. I'm chill. I'm good. I don't need to do it anymore. I just entered like the super mode, and then I kind of like demolished the boss or whatever. I think it was. I can't remember. But yeah, wasn't a fan of what I played, so I had to drop it. Next one, Wario Land 4. I was quite looking forward to this one. On the Game Boy Advance service. Sadly, I haven't finished it. Other things. Oh, I tried moving this stream layout. Let's see. Let's get back. Let's get back. Is it here? Is it here? I feel so. I feel that'd be good enough. Yeah, I try moving the fucking window. Uh, let's see. Where is it? Oh no, this is it. This is why I need my own other monitor like I had last year. I can even see it changing on OBS. There we go. That should be better now. Bap. Do like a little bit of moving. Now that's better. Okay, that's better. Let's see. Where is it? Fucking finally, here it goes. Where Land 4. I didn't finish. I think I only have like a world left. I have enjoyed what I played. If I was to put it anywhere, I'd probably put it like right at the bottom of B because it is good. Didn't really surprise me. The reason why I did want to play Wario Land 4 is that I absolutely love Pizza Tower, which feels like it was very heavily inspired by Wario Land, specifically 4 with the time limit at the end. The time limit I do like. I think that's a really neat idea to like try and run away back. I feel part of me playing Wario Land 4, I didn't take into account like the whole picture like the Pizza Tower. Like eventually I grew to like really appreciate the entirety of Pizza Tower. When I was first playing it, I was like going through the motions, being like, "Oh, this is just like a fun time." But then I got more invested in like the platforming in Pizza Tower, got more invested in the movement and like the speed element of it, and then I just got hooked. Pizza Tower just, oh, it was just so peak. It was so good. So I was really looking forward to trying Wildland 4, and I'm glad I have. But I wasn't really wowed the same way. I thought it was gonna be a lot more crazier and a lot more zanier. Um, but because I didn't feel like there was much of a sense of speed, with Wario, it felt like doing the return trip back to the start of a level. It felt kind of like pointless in a way. Um, what else? But the levels themselves were good. I thought it had good ideas. I think there were like some good transformations there. Some good level gimmicks. For sure. Some of the bosses felt a bit whack. Don't know how I feel about those. Like I feel like I should be better, but nah. Um, the BioWare Land 4, I do want to return to it at some point. Um, just like wrap it up because it was good what I played. There were some really neat ideas, but not the strongest either. So I would say if it was to go somewhere, it would probably be a B. Alright, sorry for my sniffling today. Right, Marvel Rivals. This garnered a lot of attention at the like very end of 2024, like right towards the end. And so going into 2025, it was still on my radar, and I decided to try it out in around February time. The reason why I wanted to is because I was massive into Overwatch back in the day. Really loved it. I poured so many hours into both the PlayStation and the PC version because I started on PlayStation when I got my own gaming laptop. That's when I moved on to playing Overwatch on my laptop, and I sunk so many hours into that as well. Um, have no affinity to Overwatch nowadays. I think the whole fiasco with Blizzard a good few years back and all sorts of shit going on with that game kind of like made me realize, yeah, I'm not really too fussed to go back to Overwatch, but I am kind of fascinated on the sideline seeing how it's doing. Not great, if anything. It just feels like a bit more like standard. Like even looking at the new characters they have, it looks very standard. You know. Like I thought the original cast had like such strong designs, even all the way up to like how many years onwards. But the recent Overwatch 2 designs, whenever I've seen them, just kind of whatever. um, but that's from an outside perspective. But I really didn't miss that style of gameplay. I really did miss the style of like the hero shooter, and I feel like Marvel Rivals, with how much praise it was getting, I was like, yeah, I want to give this a shot. Really happy with what I did, because I did end up enjoying it a lot. I think I would be putting this down at the bottom of A. Um, I do like the formula. I think the formula does still have legs. I think Overwatch, the fact that Overwatch is still going, as well as Valorant, I think, and the fact that Marvel Rivals is still big, I think it shows that the formula does have legs. I'm hoping it has legs not because it's Marvel, but because it is just like a very well made hero shooter. It has a really good presentation. It felt like really breezy, and just simply fun to play. Like every character felt like really unique. Um, The maps I thought were okay. But again, it's not necessarily the maps I'm looking into. It's more like about the hero shooter aspect of it. There were like a lot of heroes that I did like playing as. Some good abilities. Some where it's like shouldn't feel good. um, to go up against. Some felt like, but on the other hand, when you're the one doing that broken technique, it does feel really good. I do need to play this with friends at some point. I'm very much a single player gamer, as you can probably see. A lot of these are single player games, although a good chunk more multiplayer as well hidden in there. Um, what else? The bit I appreciate about Marvel Rivals and the bit where I feel like it really stuck out to me in comparison to Overwatch and not made it just not another Overwatch. Was the synergy mechanic. This is where if someone on your team has already selected a hero, there'll be other heroes that I can synergize with and give you like an extra ability, which I really love the idea of. Because for me, especially if I'm playing with randos, I like to see what everyone is picking first, and then see, okay, I'm gonna pick a. I know I need to play support hero. I need to play support, but I could go with either hero depending on like, am I able to claim the synergy bonus? So is one of us able to claim like a stat boost, and is another one of us able to claim an ability, or vice versa? Are we both able to claim the special ability here? Is a third person able to join the synergy with their character? I think that had a lot of depth. And part of me what appreciates going from season to season is that they change the synergies up, so it does feel like it's constantly moving. Part of it, I kind of wonder if that takes away from like your hard effort of getting used to a new synergy, which part of me doesn't really like. On the other hand, the fact that it does provide this fresh experience often is really neat, and the fact that it makes me realize I actually have an excuse to play a different character instead of just going for the same tank, instead of just gunning for the same support, or instead of just gunning for the same DPS each time. I'm able to like somehow piece together how can these synergies work. Um, what else? I'm just checking my stream health real quick here. My stream health is still excellent. That's good. I'm gonna take that as a healthy sign that my laptop is not my laptop. My actual new computer is actually doing fucking wonders, which is nice. Um, let's see. Main thing about Marvel Rivals, I have stopped playing it. Haven't picked it up since I think just at the start of season 3, and even then I didn't really play it like a match or two. I think that's when Phoenix came out, I believe. Um, one reason, and I think they may have fixed this, is in terms of competitive, which I liked, or like seeing the rank rise up and everything. It was very demotivating whenever there was a disconnect from someone else on my team. And that happened so fucking frequently, which I hated because it's like it feels like the whole point is that you can make these really cool comebacks, but people I feel like would just leave just from like a pretty poor first round and then won't play ball for like the remaining match. And instead of being like, oh, your teammate left like in the first third of the game, so we won't penalize you, they just penalize anyway. And it's sometimes annoying when it's like there's even like a little mechanic where if you get enough matches in, you get like a little shield that allows you to stop going down in points. So kind of like saves your score. And you get that after like so many like wins or losses, I believe. I can't remember which one it is. But again, if your teammate disconnects, your match is still going to count as a loss, and that's going to get rid of your shield. So I felt like I wasted that shield for nothing. And it just kind of it was just a demotivating thing. Like I know like ranks and everything isn't like the best thing in the world, but when it is your main source of like motivation, it's a bit naff. Um, just on a high note, because it is a live service game, I did appreciate it was free. Um, I do appreciate in terms of paid content, I do appreciate the battle pass stuff. Part of it is free, and I do get like the main part of it, the main bulk is paid. It's like whatever, I'm not a part of it, but fine. What I do appreciate is like if you buy it, you're not forced to complete it all within the one season. You are able to buy it during the season. In later seasons, you're able to work back on it, which I really liked. I really liked that. But on the topic of seasons, it feels like there's too much. Like I swear, a new season is happening every 2 months now. Which is bizarre. It just feels too quick. Um, so as someone that's like playing it like somewhat, well, I haven't really picked up in a good while, but as someone that was playing it like somewhat enough, the fact that like seasons were coming out too quickly, like once a month, you got like a big new character that like shaped things up, and a big new patch or whatever. That kind of like soured on me. I think I'm really not one for the live service machine, to be honest. I say that. I did lap up like every season of Splatoon 3. um, but yeah, it's mainly like I have to like absolutely be in love with something to keep it up with that frequency of new updates and new content. I think like 2 months is a bit too frequent. I feel like. Probably for the developers, and I wonder if that's going to turn on the players as well at some point. But for what it is a fun time. If you do have a passing interest on it, then I'd say definitely give it a shot. It is free, so may as well. But yeah, like I thought it was quite nice. I thought it was quite good for what it was. Um, Next one, Split Fiction. This is going to round out an entry in each and every tier. This is an S. As the years go on, and when I eventually do replay, I may choose to put an A instead. It may go down a tier. And before last weekend, so I did take the first chunk of this year of 2026 just to finish off a few games. I did finish off Metro Prime, Split Fiction, and Chibi Robo. Split Fiction, I started off with my old friend from uni when it first came out. Absolutely loved it. We were both loving it. Then I got really ill, and then it kind of like put a stop on our progress for ages, and our progress just became staggered. Like we had a return to having a good run of it back in like September, October, and then we ran out of steam again, and then we chose to pick up just last week, just last weekend. We only had like an hour or so to go, so it felt like really dumb that we didn't finish it off when we could. Really glad it did. So before that final gaming session, it was hovering around an A for me. And not for the lack of quality. I think Split Fiction is oozing with quality. It's very well made. Absolutely loved Hazelight's previous game, It Takes Two. Definitely deserved all the praise it got there. I consider It Takes Two probably like It Takes Two is a very special game. It's very good, very creative. What I appreciate about it that it is forced co-op. Because I think they did a lot of neat ideas around that. The fact like the two characters, one has a very the mechanics are intertwined with each other, but not mirrored. Sometimes they are. But one mechanic complements the other, and vice versa. You can only progress by doing your unique mechanic that will help your friend, partner, whatever, do their unique mechanic. And it's just kind of like pool of working together, being like, oh, you need to do this thing with your item. I see why that item is important in relation to my different item. Instead of just being like, I could take either role. That kind of format where you're choosing one character and that character has its own specific moveset in a certain section, I really enjoyed. And Split Fiction is, I feel like it is that formula perfected to a T. Part of that is why I was less enthusiastic about Split Fiction in comparison to It Takes Two, because It Takes Two was so unique at the time and so fresh, where Split Fiction does feel like we've done this format before, let's do it again, let's go again. Again, not a bad thing, and because Hazelight are at the moment the only ones to really do it, at least to this like degree of this unique flavor, I'm fine with it. Especially if they just turn out to be like, this is what they do going into Infinity. That's cool. That's fine. I wouldn't mind something new. But this was perfect. I think if they don't do another co-op game again, I think Split Fiction was a very good ending point. But yeah, the gameplay is as good as ever. They have just such a wide variety of ideas and cool mechanics. Part of it I want to stay for longer because some of them are really good ideas. But on the flip side, that could be positive because none of them never really overstay their welcome. I feel like if they have a cool idea, they like do a good chunk with it and then just let it be. They don't try to overplay their hand in that regard, which I appreciated. It kept like each chapter feeling fresh and it's like own distinct little things, which I really liked. What else? Yeah, general gameplay was okay. It was good, like nothing to complain of. I think platform was okay. One little thing I did appreciate over It Takes Two is that whenever you jump in It Takes Two, whilst you're sprinting, it resets your sprint. So as you land, you need to hit the sprint button and then go again. In Split Fiction, you don't need to worry about that. You just need to sprint, and you could jump, and when you land, you're sprinting still. It's very nice. So it controls well. What else? Be the other, it is hard not to compare it to It Takes Two. It has enough of its own ideas. What I did appreciate about It Takes Two is like the little mini games because I felt like they had a lot more sense of like this is a lot more of a nice, refreshing pace breaker. Like a nice way to like mellow out from the main adventure. Whereas in Split Fiction, its version of mini games are literal side stories. So the side stories here, they are, well, I realise I haven't even been explaining the premise of any of these games. Split Fiction, it stars these two women, Zoe and Mio. trying to get published at this really weird high-tech publishing firm or publisher or whatever. Their core gimmick is that they could turn like books and ideas and whatever into their own living products that you can like go into like this weird alien metaverse kind of situation. Um, through shenanigans, Zoe and Mia end up in combining their stories, and it results in this weird glitch. So they're going through each sci-fi worlds and fantasy worlds, each pulled from their own individual stories that they've come up with, in their reality. So you get insights into characters that way. Not as much environmental storytelling as I feel like it could have had, like little nods here and there. But it is a really neat premise. And I think for the most part, the sci-fi and fantasy themes were really done, especially in tandem with the unique mechanics they provided in each chapter. Um, Now, for a whole chapter, you may think like going through a whole sci-fi, going through a whole fantasy setting would be pretty dire, and it probably would be. But that's why they have these side stories, where going to a side story, you get into like the other realm for that chapter. So if you're doing like a sci-fi themed chapter, your side stories will be themed around fantasy. If you're doing a fantasy themed chapter, your side story content would be based in sci-fi material. So I thought that was a cool way to like give like breathers to each variety. The side stories are a neat idea. I think they presented like some really novel concepts that wouldn't survive as this whole chapter, um, but serve to be really good if it's like its own little self-contained bit. The level of side stories do vary. Like some of them were really plain, like it is just walking, and like slightly jumping, not really too engrossing. Other times, I like that I took the opportunity to be a bit more competitive. Only one, just slightly spoiled it. It is like a whole ass SSX tricky parody that you play, which was really fascinating and really fun. Just like really admired like they went for something like that as a side story content. I did prefer the minigames overall because I did appreciate like the little bit more of like the unique gameplay mechanic, and especially because it's like a competitive flavor in a co-op game, which I liked. Before the words, I thought it was good. Anyway, I'm rambling. I feel myself yapping too much. Um, but yeah, very good. But all the way until like the sixth chapter was very good, very high quality, deserving of its praise. But I also feel like I've done this before. With It Takes Two, just in a different flavor. For me, though, the real kicker and the thing that's probably put it into S for me, and it may be recency bias, oh, it is the final chapter. It is like the final set piece, the final scenario. Because to slightly spoil It Takes Two, I'm not going to say what happens in the ending, but the final chapter of It Takes Two, it does feel like you're just playing another chapter and then it just kind of ends. Like you can feel yourself approaching the end, but like when the end happens, like me and my friend, we were just like, we didn't realize that would be the end. We were kind of shocked. Um, where Split Fiction, it has a lot more of a um focused ending, especially in the gameplay department, where they really blew our socks off. I really hoped like there was like a certain aspect of that final chapter, mainly in the first portion of it, that was extended further because the idea was like so good that I feel like doing it for like just a little bit, it killed its potential. I think it had the potential to like go on for a lot further. I think, but I'd rather it be like killed short and sweet rather than dragged out and be a bore by the end of it. But the whole sequence was just really cool. There are some really cool ideas, and yeah, I don't know. I think it's good. Just one final note I want to mention about the Split Fiction, and It Takes Two games, and this extends a bit to A Way Out, which is the game before It Takes Two as well. I really appreciate their split screen. Well, how split screen is the only way you're going to play these games. For one, it kind of. Well, the main thing about it is that it kind of replicates like the couch co-op experience, which I think is like really good to have in like this post pandemic world. Like, not that co-op games weren't online beforehand, but I feel like even now, as people are like much more remote and much more willing to play games online, if they were to just have it being like you have your entire own screen to yourself and you can't see your friend's screen and vice versa, um, it does feel like, oh, you are playing online. Whereas having the split screen mode, it does help to um, it does help in that couch co-op feeling, even if you're far apart. More importantly, I think it's very good for gameplay. Being able to quickly see your partner's screen, being able to see where they are, what they have directly in front of them, especially in separate areas. That's very good to like just help them out or help each other out by seeing like, oh, this bit on your screen directly relates to what I'm seeing on my screen. I really appreciate that aspect of that dual screen. Um, and to me, the fact like they did that despite so many co-op games just giving people their own screen, I really like that they knew this was intentional and stuck with it. To me, that implies like the people at Hazelight and Joseph Ferris um, just know what they're doing, and that's really massively appreciated. I think that's just really cool. But yeah, Split Fiction I think is an S. Bulk of the game was very good, but it is the ending that like really pushed it onwards to me. If you are playing it, if you're not liking it by the first, I think the first sci-fi chapter is very good, which is like the first main chapter you play. That ends very cool. Um, in a cool way, I should say, rather to be better grammatically. But the ending of the whole experience is like just really shocked me. And even now, I'm thinking, yeah, that was a really good ending. Probably one of the best endings I've experienced in a while. Right, I'm going to take a quick swig of water. I'm so happy that you guys can hear the sips going on. Oh, right. Let's see, I feel like everyone's busy. I definitely do want to play. I do want to play, not play. I do want to go into streaming more and more content creation when time allows. The fact is, like, for those that know, I work in a school. Part of it is like I wouldn't want the students finding out about this, not as a safeguarding issue, but more so like it's a little bit embarrassing. um, but the other bit is time. I feel like my time was like has a lot going on, and so if I did have to go part time, I wouldn't mind like dedicating a good chunk of that to something like content creation or something more creative. Right, okay. Let's continue. Donkey Kong 94. Like we're around 4. I didn't finish. For what it's worth, it is good. It is really nice. I like how it kind of subverted expectations of like the arcade game. I mean a bit more of like a puzzle platformer. I quite appreciated that. Not super in love with it though. Like the way people talk about this game, they're like, "Oh, this game like fucking slaps. It's really good. You need to play Donkey Kong 94." Whereas for me, I'm enjoying it, but I'm also not enamored by it in the same way. I'm not strictly loving it. Not as bad. I think it will go like halfway in the B tier if I was to finish it. So I will finish it at some point. But it's be a bit of like Gen Z, I guess. Well, I am Gen Z, but to be annoyingly Gen Z, I'm not really a fan of Game Boy games. Like I'm just not. I'm just not a fan of them. I don't typically like how they look, or like how they control or anything, or especially how they sound. I'm not too keen on like the Game Boy sound font. It feels like a bit too screechy sometimes. That's definitely more personal taste. For what it was worth, Donkey Kong 94, I did like. I just haven't finished it, so I wouldn't feel comfortable putting it in a tier as such, but it would be somewhere in B, I'd say. Right, Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition. Played this, so it's a funny thing in the Xenoblade series. So started getting into it in 2015. So that's when the 3DS version of the first game came out. Dropped it, I think halfway through. I think I was so close to finishing it. I think it's like 2/3 of the way through that. I'm surprised I didn't finish it. Looking back, and let's see, and then Xenoblade X I got for Christmas that year. I think I put in like 30 hours or something to it, but then I fell off of it kind of hard. Um, the next year, with the year after the next year, rather in 2017, picked up Xenoblade 2 for Christmas after hearing good reviews. I'm like, okay, fuck it, like I'll give it another shot. I'll give the series another shot. Wasn't into it for the past half an hour, but for some reason something kept me pushing back, and I ended up loving Xenoblade 2, and that really made me into the Xenoblade series as a whole. As a whole, since then. Um, so I'm glad I got back in the Xenoblade series. I picked up Xenoblade Definitive Edition in 2020. Enjoyed it a lot. I thought it was good. Um, picked up. Then when I picked up Xenoblade 3, I thought that was amazing. And then the DLC then the year after was also really good. Um, and then Xenoblade X, very happy to see coming to the Switch. I think it deserved the second chance. I think it was like one of the last big Wii U games to get a port to the Switch. I think now it's like really Nintendo Land and maybe something else. Like I would say Star Fox Zero, but I don't think many people really give a shit about Star Fox Zero or Game of Mario or something like that. I don't think there's really that many games remaining that were new to the Wii U that haven't made their way over, and I think Xenoblade X definitely deserved to. Um, as a Xenoblade fan, I was really happy to return to it. I'm glad I gave it a second shot, and I definitely appreciate it more, especially now that my tastes have evolved a lot in the 10 years since I first picked up Xenoblade X. That being said, I am putting it somewhere in B. I think it is good. Um, I think it's best experienced that it is a different Xenoblade Chronicles experience. That should be obvious by the title in the sense that it's like X. To me, I always saw it as like a bit of like a pseudo spin-off, right? Not necessarily spin-off in terms of gameplay, but definitely in terms of vibe. Like it's a lot more of an Americanized cast, with American voice actors. A lot leans a lot more heavier into the MMO RPG roots of it. Like you have like this like hub town area, you have like this alley, you have all of these like gear you can equip, like all of these stats you can change. You have like this multiplayer element in it as well, which I thought was really interesting. Didn't try it. Again, I'm a single player boy. Didn't really pay it too much mind. Um, but yeah, so I'm not really too keen into the MMORPG aspects of Xenoblade. Like even all the way up to like in the main games 1, 2, and 3, never really appreciate like the vast variety of gear and equipment you can like actually put on you because it feels like you the stats you're changing are like so minuscule or like the effects are so minuscule in relationship to like other things. It feels kind of pointless. Like, admittedly, why the fuck is it that getting something more powerful during the daytime or the nighttime when you can also, like, say, increase power by 10% during nighttime? It's like, okay. But then you also get some point down the line increase power by 10%. So you're doing the same thing just 24/7. What is the point of nighttime or daytime specific items unless they have unique effects? Anyway, I'm just rambling. That's more about Xenoblade as a whole. But yeah, those kind of aspects I don't really like about Xenoblade X, and the Xenoblade series as a whole. Um, but it was still good. It is still fascinating. I think I'm actually going to put it above Symphony of the Night. I think it did connect to me more than Symphony of the Night. Really appreciate the open world. Funny enough, I think it was just very well designed. It felt quite seamless. I think each of the five main biomes had its own unique vibe going on, and way to traverse. You definitely need to require a scale, and that's what makes the scale being the big mech. That's what makes getting the scale like very much worth it. Being alone in this like alien land. Um, there's a whole scenario of this game. You've been like wrapped up in the war. You've evacuated Earth. You've landed, crash land on this alien planet Mira. Go off and explore and survive. I think that's like such a cool premise, and I think the game did justice to this that premise on the whole. Maybe not so much in the main story itself. The way it shines is more like how do you explore the world? How do you do your little things like having the navigation probes, How do you mine for resources that will help you build gear to survive? How you go about living your life as just another member of the human race trying to help the last like strand of the species survive on this alien planet. I think that's a cool premise, and I really liked. You have to be in it for the side stories as well. Seeing how people adapt to like the new alien species that will be friendly, some will be harsh. How do they adapt to their new environments? How do they adapt to new lifestyles? I think those are the bits where it's like probably at the most interesting. Because the main story, I did like it. I didn't mind it, but I wasn't in love with it. It wasn't as gripping as I feel like it could have been. Um, Not lame, but not what you come into Xenoblade X for. If you're coming in for the main story of the plot, I think you're gonna be a bit disappointed. You have to come in for it for the gameplay, which we'll get into a bit, but mainly also the side story content, the missions, and just exploring the world itself. Since the gameplay was good, I think it is a step above Xenoblade X. I mean, the first Xenoblade Chronicles, because there is a bit more variety. I did like how you could change your classes. There, it felt like I was always trying something new, which I thought was nice. Um, yeah, nothing really too much to add. I feel like I did appreciate the scales, the big giant mechs you can have, which are the focal point of this game. I did like how they have like their own unique combat system. Even if it did feel like a bit more getting used to at first. Um, the main other gimmick is the override ability when you're on foot. Because in the cockpit, in the mech, in the scale, it felt like whatever, just felt like a boosted mode. But like you definitely feel the difference in an override when you're on foot. Because all of your abilities just like supercharged like almost immediately, and it is quite fun to like try and chain these massive attacks together. Um, at the same time, it did feel like a little bit too OP at points. Sometimes chain attacks can feel like that, and I had the problem in Xenoblade 3 as well, where I thought the chain attack system felt a bit too OP once you knew what the fuck you were doing. And I loved it in Xenoblade 2, where I felt like you had to work in the main battle first before putting up the chain attack for like massive damage. I felt like a lot more rewarding. But the override, it was like whatever. I thought it was still a good mechanic. It was definitely fun. But I definitely felt like you're on like super adrenaline or something, and you just like demolish the enemies. So they kind of make things cakewalk. Um, the main difference about this one, though, aside from all the nice quality of life updates, is the new epilogue, which I do appreciate. I do like how they did this for Xenoblade 1 as well. Like Xenoblade 1, though, I thought the epilogue was super whatever. Um, I wasn't really too keen on Xenoblade 1's extra epilogue. Not that it was necessarily bad, but I feel like it was just kind of like whatever. I feel even more so here. I felt like this epilogue. Again, I wasn't super invested in anything. But I felt like if it was, I'd be kind of like bummed out. Part of it felt like the epilogue was there to try and weave it into the mainline stuff. Whereas for me, I was perfectly happy for Xenoblade X to be its own separate thing entirely. I didn't need it to be connected somehow to the main trilogy. I'm not necessarily complaining, but I didn't need it. And I felt like it was a whole way to just justify that, and they do that by kind of in a bummer way. I feel like they could have done it in like a lot in a much better way than I did do it. It felt very shit. It didn't leave a good taste in my mouth, that ending. Not as bad per se. I'm looking forward to seeing like how do they work from it in the future. But I also didn't need it. It could have just been its own thing. I think you just need to like the big cliffhanger at the end of the main story. I feel like didn't really get answered. Like I didn't feel like I really learned more about Mira as a planet. Like I think there is definitely something in there, but it just wasn't picking out to me. It just felt very weird, very alien. Um, just a bit meh, to be honest. Um, not not bad enough to bump it down to C though. I think Xenoblade X is still a good game. Still enjoyed it for what it was. And clearly I did because I put in like 80 hours into it or something. Let's see. What is next on the docket? Rift of the Necrodancer. I am gonna put this right at the tippy top would be. So at the start of the stream, when I was talking about the tiers, I mentioned like there's a lot more, I guess, nuance to the tiers. Um, in the sense that like it feels like some games could be in the realms between. I would put Rift of the Necrodancer in between an A and a B. Um, I really did enjoy it. I think. Oh, sorry. I have a bit of hiccups. That's a bit embarrassing. Right. Oh, for fuck's sake, come on. Uh, right, I think that should be the hiccups. Hiccups stopping now. Um, I think the general gameplay of Crypt of the Necrodancer was very good. I was a big fan of Crypt of the Necrodancer, especially with mainly its Danganronpa DLC, funny enough, but I really did appreciate its twist on the roguelike formula. Um, so I really did appreciate this game where I felt a lot more akin to your standard rhythm game. If I needed a quick fix, it was very good just to go in and like play a song, try and aim for a high score. And I think the gameplay behind it is really good. I like how the notes that you need to hit are enemies, and each enemy has its own tail, its own pattern, its own properties. I thought it was a really cool way to like spice it up, especially to make it a sequel to the Necrodancer series. Um, the music was good. As would often be the case, there are songs that you love, some songs that you don't. But on the whole, it was okay. I definitely valued the soundtrack. It was very well made, at the very least. Um, there is a story mode in there, which I am fond of the idea. The bit that definitely made me want this to be day one purchase as soon as I could were the mini games, because I was very Reverend Paradise coded. For what it's worth, it was quite nice, although some felt like a bit unorthodox to control. Like I felt like this definitely should be on the beat, and for some reason it's not. So I wasn't really too sure what was up with that. Um, the bosses were kind of like whatever. Thankfully, you can play like the boss music in a traditional gameplay format, which is nice because I think the general gameplay of doing the bosses was kind of whatever. So I'm glad you can at least play the music in a traditional format. The thing that I'm looking forward to in the future is more collabs. So I'm still waiting for the Shovel Knight collab to come out. It's been out on Steam for a good while. Been waiting for it on Switch for a good while. Um, and whilst I'm thinking of that, I'm realizing that I've missed out all the games that I've been meaning to play this year that came out. So I have missed out on a lot of new releases. Because I was just thinking that I remember that Unbeatable has a new collab with Rift of the Necrodance. So I want to play Unbeatable. I want to try out Bits and Bops. I want to try out Rhythm Doctor. But I also want to play a lot of games. Like I didn't get around to playing Hyrule Warriors. I got the Pipistrella game, which is like very heavily inspired off of the GBA Zelda titles. I did get that. I did buy it, so it's definitely on my list. I didn't play Doom: The Dark Ages either. I was massive into Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal. I love those games. But yeah, Doom and Dark Ages wasn't really super on my radar. The Ninja Gaiden and Shinobi games I want to try. They look really fun. Blueprints and Despalote, Absalom, and Dispatch. I really want to try because I'm just really enamored by them. They have really rave reviews. So I really want to try them out. I'm just realizing the reason why this stream is probably excellent is just because it really is just sharing my screen on my PC, not having to do anything to do with my Switch or anything, like plugging it in. Oh well. The main big ones that I missed out this year though were Katamari Damacy, Once Upon a Katamari, I believe it was. Um, really wanted to because I love Katamari Damacy. We love Katamari. Love that one. And the first Katamari Damacy I really enjoyed as well. So I really want to play this new one and show my support. I am waiting for a Switch 2 edition because apparently the Switch 1 version doesn't run the best. But I do want to give props to the Switch 2 version. Well, I am hoping for Switch 2 version. The other one is either Somnium Files No Sleep for Konami Date. I've really liked the Somnium Files series. Um, so it was kind of a shame to miss out on this. It is one of those like pseudo spin-offs from the outside looking in. It's not written by Uchikoshi. It's not written by Uchikoshi, so I knew the mystery wasn't going to be good. Apparently, the mystery is not that good. But I would be into it for the writing, which apparently the comedy behind it is really good. Which I think is like one of the strongest attributes of Somnium Files. Actually, they're really funny games. Um, so I do want to try Somnium Files at some point in the future. I probably would have bought it by now if the Switch 2 version did come on a cartridge. But for what it's worth, it is what it is. Ah well. I'll probably buy it at some point in the future. Let's see. Right, that's the end of that ramble. Yeah, I just want to mention the games that like there is a lot of games that came out in 2025 that I do want to play. I sadly didn't get to. Um, right, next one. Expedition 33 gonna be a normie here. Very predictable. It's also peak. It is peak. It is very good. It is amazing. Just super high quality all around. I think the gameplay. I really liked the active gameplay of the battle system. Um, I think it gets a lot of comparisons to Mario RPGs, and I don't think that's unwarranted. I think that's very accurate. The only bit I don't like about when it's your turn to the actions, your button presses they don't really feel timed to your actions. It just feels like a QTE that you need to do for your action to be more powerful, rather than actually timing it to the precise hits, which I feel is kind of a bummer. I feel like that's part of the fun is like timing your hits as well to have like that satisfying feedback. Um, but that's like when you are attacking, and that's my main gripe with the gameplay in terms of the battle system. Um, but other than that, I thought it was very fun. I really liked how the enemies react and the kind of like push and pull of like parrying and just dodging. Parrying has a narrow window, so you're more likely to get hurt. Sorry, but you are also able to gain skill points that will allow you to then take further action. And then you're on your side. Each of the characters you control in your party, so you only select three at a time. Each of them have their own unique gimmicks and gameplay styles, which on top of having already a very customizable Picto system, which allows you to like have different effects on your enemies, on yourself, different like stat upgrades, so on and so forth. Having the extra wrinkle of unique character gimmicks and mechanics really added to the fun of like trying to see what some fun synergies be. Like knowing that like Mael, this character Mael, she applies a lot of burns. So you know, okay, maybe I want to apply s- stuff that could rely on burns more. Maybe I can use this other character skill that you know deals more damage to those that are burning. Maybe I could just apply this little Picto system, this little tweak that allows me to deal be more likely to deal extra critical damage, or like more likely to deal critical damage on burning enemies. It's that kind of thinking where there's a lot of like moving elements at play that felt like really fun to experiment with. A lot of options and decisions to make in your own working out of like, okay, what pictos are actually worth having, what isn't worth having, what would I like to play around with. Um, I realize I'm going into gameplay without actually deducing what the actual game is. I'm always just assuming everyone's heard of these games before. um, and I feel like if you are watching this, there's a very high chance you are quite savvy in the game industry scene. You're very likely to at least heard of Clair Obscur Expedition 33. It's probably like the biggest breakout hit last year, and for good reason. It is very well made. The main premise behind it is that you start off there is like this massive monolith called the Paintress. And every year she paints a new number. Whatever number it is, everyone of that age just perishes through the gamage. So they just disappear in like a very lovely and artistic, like white and red flower like effect, which I thought was actually very beautiful. But also, of course, very sad because like these people are effectively like just getting yeeted out of existence, let's say. Um, and so by the time the game is set, the number has already reached down to 33. And so you play as this expedition group that go out to venture towards the Paintress to try and bring an end to it. But you're not the first one. Ever since this has started, an expedition has gone out each and every year to try and do the same thing you're trying to do. And they have obviously failed. So you're going in as Expedition 33 to try and put a stop to this. As you go on, you explore the continent, see like, okay, why the fuck are these enemies, Netherlands, why are they attacking us? What is the Paintress's end game here? Like, why is she doing this? Why is she so willing to raise these people? Um, and what I did like is that you can sometimes find perished expedition members as you go on, which is definitely harrowing. But it certainly adds to the atmosphere of being like you are walking on a path that many people have just crumbled on, that have just like fallen in battle, have just like died for any other means. Sometimes comedic, but other times like very like, oh, this is a bit of a fucked up bit. And as part of that, you can find journal entries. So you find more information about like how did this expedition go about it. Like there's this one expedition that like traveled via like a massive Ferris wheel. There's another expedition that just relied on their muscles and just swam the whole way to the Painters, and somehow they were the most successful out of like all of the expeditions. Um, but yeah, that premise I think like was really cool. Um, and the characters and how they're dealing with the situation was really nice as well. Like some of the characters are like, they know it's the final year, so if they don't sort this out, if the Paintress stays the same, they're just gonna die anyway. So they use their last year essentially to go on this expedition to try and put a stop to this whole thing. Um, other party members have gone through their own suffering in life, which is really cool. Well, I say really cool as in like really, it makes them feel more human. Not that suffering is cool because it's not. More so because it makes them feel more human and more like characters I want to give a shit about. Um, what else? About the story. The ending is heartbreaking. I will say that. I think it went places that I wasn't necessarily expecting it to go to. It is a bit of like a bit of like mind fuckery. What goes on? Again, I can't really spoil it. The fact that I am saying some kind of like mindfuckery is going on may spoil some things, but I really did appreciate the angle they went for here. I think it wasn't just a bit of like, oh, we're being like a fucked up, confusing ending for the sake of being to in inspiration of the JRPGs. No, I think the ending was very well deserved. I think it was definitely well thought out. Um, very divisive. Um, Probably for a good reason. I can definitely see why it is controversial for a good amount. But yeah, it was definitely heartbreaking. And some of the presentation and the music, obviously top notch. Definitely deserved to win um, soundtrack of the year. Maybe not art direction as such. It is a very pretty game. More so in terms of the style. I really like the styling of the expedition, like motifs, like all like the gold, like diamond and the lions and stuff like that. I just thought that was like really sick design, and I quite like the paint stroked artistry in display in the world and also in the battle UI as well. That was really cool. Um, the final act, which is where everything comes to a head. The main story of it does feel really short, but it opens up dramatically, allowing you to access a lot more side content and extra content. By the time I had my fill of the extra content, I was way too over leveled for the main final boss. So the final boss I blitzed through. So that's why the secret final boss I was like really happy with at the end because I felt like that was a good challenge to end my experience on and secure my platinum. But yeah, the ending, gameplay wise, felt like a bit bummed out that I was over leveled. In terms of the actual ending, though, it is heartbreaking. I think it is. I like that they took a swing with it and they tried something new. Um, I did want to mention, just to get something a bit on my chest, I am a little bit concerned with the use of AI. So for those that don't know, um, there is a section in the game. I think only like literally one like lamppost or something that has Gen AI generated decals on it, which I don't like. I'm very much anti Gen AI. I was very disappointed to find that out. Was patched in super soon after it was found, like a week after launch, apparently. After it won the game of the year, apparently like massive news broke out about it again. So it came to a head being like, oh, how can you justify this when this was in the game? To me personally, I'm gonna take Sandfall's word for it that it was just there as a placeholder asset they made a while ago, apparently since 2022, which I still don't think was good. But for something they were experimenting with, then it's like whatever. Technically, a lot of people were experimenting with Gen AI ages ago because we had like that weird thing ages ago where a lot of people were making Gen AI images. Um, so we've all had a well, I didn't muck about with it, but I'm saying like saying you never use Gen AI. We have like that did happen ages ago when people were like, oh, make me a Columbo amiibo. People were doing that shit. Like that was a massive trend for a good while. So I think that kind of admiration has continued on with Gen I for sad tech bros and people that don't know how to create. I'm very much against it, especially in like actual products, especially in actual artistic products. So to have it in Clair Obscure, even if was that one thing, I felt very. It is a massive bummer because it's a game so full of artistry, and I'm not going to take away from that artistry just because of this one texture. Um, for me, it definitely does muddy the waters because it is like, okay, then how else did I use Gen I? Did I use Gen I to create the story scenario? Did they use Gen AI to create place like actual text? Did they use Gen AI in whatever else they needed to create that couldn't be bothered to do themselves? That's the fit I have. So for me, because it is only that one instance, and they did patch it out relatively quickly after it was spotted, I'm giving Sandfall the benefit of the doubt, personally. Maybe not the wisest. I may have like egg on my face when it turns out Sandfall used Gen I in so many other things. But for me, I still want to believe that they did have the artistry to, still create, what they created. Um, so again, maybe egg on my face in that regard about Gen AI. But for me, because there was only that one placeholder bit, and for me, I believe only that one instance in that game. To me, that's I could believe that was meant to be just a placeholder, and it was meant to be patched out, and it probably was them fucking about at some point with the technology. I'm willing to give that benefit of the doubt if that was all the way back in 22. If it comes out that they did use it a lot more in the story and stuff like that, then yeah, it's definitely gonna fall a lot more in my respect. And there is one game that I'm definitely scared follows into that a lot more, and we'll get into that game when we get onto it. But for the next one, 100 line, the 100 line Last Defense Academy. I've put this as the main bit in my stream thumbnail, and for a very obvious reason. I considered this to be my game of the year, truthfully. I think after I finish it all, it probably won't. I think it's a bit. Part of me feels weird, like the most. Probably out of everything, well, I say almost everything. Welcome to definitely isn't like the most gamey game. ever. That's probably the least game here. 100 Line is very much live or die by its script. It's very much live or die by its story and its writing and its characters and its, well, just that kind of aspect of the visual novel side of it. That being said, I fucking loved it. Like, I fucking loved what I played so far. The premise, the core premise is that you are whisked away to fight in this war against invaders to protect your loved ones. But you're whisked away to this seemingly abandoned school or school built up to be this last line of defense against these invaders. He needs to protect the school alongside ultimately 14 other students. Um, you battle via strat game. So it felt like a bit like how I would describe this game. Very, very briefly would be Fire Emblem meets Danganronpa. The Fire Emblem part of it is the strategy gameplay, which is Fire Emblem in the sense that's a strategy game. The similarities kind of end there. Something that's very much not like Fire Emblem is this very own unique flavor of strategy. The core premise is that each character has its own unique gimmick, their own unique gameplay style. Some focus a lot more on attacking, some focus a lot more on defending, some focus a lot more on supporting and extra like buffs or debuffs or what have you. Some people have a variety of all sorts. So each character does feel unique. Um, and you never choose who to send into battle. If if you have a portion of people going into battle with, that is just what the story demands. If the if all of them are able to battle, all of them will battle. So you kind of need to be prepared to like be able to use any one of your units effectively, which I really appreciated. And I kind of like how they weave in. If you die in battle, it's not a permadeath situation. You just get revived. I like how they weave that into like being a mechanic of the school system itself, which I thought was neat. It wasn't just being like, oh, I just need to retreat to the battle. They do actually die. They just get revived later on. Um, and there is some implications about that as well, um, which I won't spoil it into. Not necessarily into. Well, I still need to deduce the mysteries for it itself. More so, like there is some extra implication, like, oh, these certain things need to be met in order for a member to be revived. So it's not just like, oh, if they die at all, they can always be revived. There needs to be certain requirements to be met. Um, with this gameplay side of it, I think it was quite strong. Um, Not amazing, but I think once you get in the habit of like realizing what synergies you have in between your teammates, how can you get combos in order to make sure you can have as long as a turn as possible. At the start of each time, you only get like 3 action points. You claim more action points by defeating like big enemies, so ones that have more than one health bar. There's like these little enemies that like are basically like cannon fodder, whose only goal is there is just like take up space and to annoy you. If you take out real enemies, you get a +1 to your attack points, and you can act again. After your unit attacks or does an action, they get tired, so they can only move one space. They can still act, but can hardly move at all. So there's that risk element of being like your positioning after you do an attack or an action needs to be spot on if you want to remain safe. Um, but there is a lot of like tactical thinking behind this, surprisingly. Um, for what is to me, I would say it's an excuse. It's not an excuse. An excuse of a gameplay mode implies that they didn't really put too much thought into it. They clearly did, but it's by far it's not the main meat of this adventure. It is definitely the story, and as the title may imply, the 100 lines, the 100 different endings you can eventually get. How it works is that your main first route is you get introduced to school, you get introduced to characters, and you have your first scenario of the invaders and everything so on. It's quite laid out in front of you, so it's still exciting to follow. There's still some really weird things that happen, which made me realize: am I really on like a default path? Have I made a choice somewhere to get me onto a different route without me knowing? But no, like your first route is all there. It is exactly what it's meant to be, and it was very surprising to play through. There's some really weird scenarios that happen in there that I was like really shocked that actually happened. And really cool story beats and stuff. After you beat that for the first time and see credits for the first time, that's when the real game unlocks essentially. That's when you're opened up to the 100 lines. That's when you're opened up to this whole big flowchart, this whole big timeline, where you'll see the story diverging in a lot of different ways. Sorry if you guys heard like the engine revving in my street. If that was picking up on the mic. Um, Let me see how am I doing for time. It's something like an hour and a half in. I am definitely yapping. I'm probably on track to hit 3 hours yet again. Um, Let me see. Um, what is so with the routes? There's 100 routes. You did get a little count of how many you've completed. I've completed like about I think 30ish around that number. Um, I think so, like 28, 30. I think I've hit 30, maybe 32. I think 32. I'm just trying to do some quick maths in my head. I think so. I think between 28 and 32. Anyway, around roughly like a fifth, or well, more like a quarter or a third of the way through all the alternate routes. The variety on display is absolutely mind-boggling, though. There are so many different pathways they've gone about. Um, one is each one is more fascinating than the last. There is one route where it feels like so you start from like this very big decision that splits you off between two separate routes, right? Obviously, won't spoil what it is, but it is when you have that first choice, it does feel like, oh, this is big. You can already tell this is gonna like have some like massive like changes depending on which way you go. Um, what it is that the routes they're all sectioned off into their own subcategories. What I'm getting at is like a one subcategory. They're all comedy based. So the endings to each route are like this like punchline, the roots, the stories told within are mainly just comedic, more like a slice of life. So if you really liked the cast and the characters, I found it really charming and just really funny to go through. Very stupid, very dumb, but I really liked it. A change in the story happened, I think, on day 16. Um, Following splintering off on that path, you then get into the horror, the horror route essentially, the slasher route is called, which is essentially it feels like a homage to like B movie horror movies. Like there's so many like different horror tropes going on. Each route feels like its own little thing. There's this like own little subcategories within these big subcategories. There's a route totally based around this other genre that the creator's definitely known for. There's this other genre in there, I'm sure. Apparently, there's going to be DLC in the future, so there's going to be even more different alternating routes. It's just fascinating how many different stories they've been able to weave with this cast and to this degree. And that is mainly, and the writers at the helm of this is probably the best tag team you could ask for. Um, Kodaka and Uchikoshi. So Kotaro Uchikoshi, he is the writer for um, the Summoning File series, which I absolutely adore. Both of the Zero Escape series, like the Nunnery games, 999, and so on and so forth. And then the other one of the tag team, and probably the biggest influence I believe on this game, is Kazutaka Kodaka, who's the Danganronpa guy, and he also created the Mystery Detective Archives a few years back. The reason why I bring up Kodaka in particular, um, in addition to mentioning Mystery Detective Archives, even though I don't think that game was really that big, um, to me, Mystery Detective Archives, I'm a massive Danganronpa fan. So Mystery Detective Archives, that felt more like a Danganronpa spiritual successor in terms of gameplay. Like you have something similar to like the trial period. You have something similar to like the investigation period. You have like all these similarities, but the main structure and the main bulk and the main scenario surrounding it definitely felt like its own unique thing, which I appreciated. However, 100 Line Last Defense Academy feels like a spiritual successor to Danganronpa in terms of its vibes, which I appreciate and didn't realize I missed a lot more. The fact that it is like the smaller cast of characters um, that are just trapped within this one environment. They don't know why. They need to figure out the mysteries of like their situation and the school they're in. Also, the mysteries surrounding like this weird mascot character called Siri, who's like the commanding officer. What the fuck is his deal? Siri, I haven't asked you to be responding to my voice. Oh, because I I said Siri. You must have thought it said Siri, and then it started picking up. Oh, isn't Apple technology fun? Um, where was I? But yeah, even the small things like the fact files for each character. Obviously there's the art style there. The art style and the sprites very Danganronpa coded. Um, the music very Danganronpa coded, as to be expected because it's the same guys working on it. Um, let's see. Even in the smaller details, like how the presentation of the cast when they're chatting, very similar to Danganronpa. And they each have their own little symbols and emblems. Once again, very similar to the Danganronpa cast as well, which is like such a weird detail to bring back. But to me, it all but confirms this is Danganronpa in spirit. Not in gameplay, not technically in genre even, but in terms of his vibes and personality and everything. And I really appreciated that, especially because it did feel a lot more adult. It didn't feel as juvenile as Danganronpa can be, with its like weird innuendos and sexual content. I think 100 Line it does have that here and there, but it's a lot more mellow. It's a lot less fan surfacey, um, which I massively appreciate as someone who's now 27 years old instead of 17 when I first got into Danganronpa. 17, yeah, it was. Jeez, it's gonna be 10 years since I first got into Danganronpa this year. Mad. Um, yeah. Um, yeah, 100 Line, massive, massive appreciation. I am probably gonna rank it in next year's list as well. If I feel like it's worthy to include, considering how the other 70 lines go, considering if I have DLC to go through as well. But I really want to get back into it. I am loving 100 Line Last Defense Academy. It's a very good game. Very happy with it. Right, I feel my throat is going. Right, directly onto another heavy hitter. Where are we? Um, Probably, arguably, one of the most annoying games to hear discourse of this year. Um, Switch 2 came out. Been really enjoying the Switch 2. It is essentially another Switch, which I don't really mind. I've been wanting a more powerful Switch. I've been wanting a more capable Switch for ages. I've had my original Switch. I've been playing my original Switch since it launched 8 years before the Switch 2 came out. I was definitely ready for an upgrade. The Switch 2, for what it's worth, I'm very happy with. Mario Kart World, I think, was probably the perfect game to launch alongside it, in one way or another. Because it's Mario Kart, right? I think people love Mario Kart. If you say, "Can you play Mario Kart?" people will say yes. Everyone loves Mario Kart. It's very much like the best game you could have to get in as large of a blue ocean as you can. Um, Not that it would bring in non-gamers, but people who just like games in general, even in passing. Everyone knows about Mario Kart. Casuals do enjoy playing Mario Kart. They'd be happy to play Mario Kart. So I think that was very wise for them to launch alongside it. Um, for what it is worth, I think I really enjoyed it. I really enjoy Mario Kart World. I am gonna put it in A. I'm not gonna put it in B or lower because of like other reasons that I'll get into later. Um, for me, the thing that makes a great game is just how great it feels to play. Mario Kart World does feel great to play for me personally, like how I control the car, how do I move. It just felt great. I think that's really exemplified by the new techniques and the new tech, like the wall riding and the grind railing, um, and the little tweaks to the items as well. Like the fact that momentum kind of stays after you get hit by certain items. I really like that feeling. Like I don't feel like I'm just crawled to a halt anymore. I feel like there can still be some sense of momentum going forward. If I'm able to time it right or something like that, that's really appreciated. Um, so in terms of general game feel, I'm fine. The main gimmick with this though, and definitely probably like the thing that a lot of people are the most hung up on, is the open world mechanic of it, which to me I think works. I did enjoy it. I don't think it's the strongest. I think free lap courses still play better. I still prefer free lap courses on the whole, but I think to be into the overlapping structure of the like the open world structure of the races, the connecting races, the connectors, let's say, you kind of need to be into it for the like spectacle and the vibe of it. I like the vibe of having a big race from like one location to another in this like seamless open world. I think that's just a really cool feeling to have. And I think that's something that kind of goes underappreciated because everyone is just complaining about straight lines, which is a bit somewhat true, admittedly. Like some routes in this game are absolutely dire to drive on. They're over way too quickly. They do feel like a bit too straight and narrow, without much else going on. It is whatever. And that is when the game like really sours. It does feel very bad. And it does feel bad when you only get to play one lap on the track you actually arrive at. And that's especially true if it's only a portion of the track, or worse, it's like not even the whole track. Like if you get a route to Peach Stadium, for example, the general course is actually alright. I quite like it. But like there are some routes where you go on it and you just do like the oval on the ground, like on the ground hub area of Peach Circuit, of Peach Stadium rather. That is so naff. It's so fucking pointless, and that's the bit where I think this overlapping structure is at its weakest. Um, However, hello, feel you there, bro. Hello, Oscar. Massive. I'm getting people from NX London, I believe. How you doing, Oscar? Your chats may be a little bit to like. You have Miss Melvo. Melvo was here seemingly 24 hours ago because he's left a comment. Um, um, yeah, Mario Kart World. The routes they can be very hit or miss, but when they do hit, I really do enjoy the vibe of it. Some of the routes can feel very good. One little thing I really appreciate, um, and the one I'm doing good, Oscar. I'm doing fine. My throat is already getting dry. I've already been talking for almost 2 hours, I think. What do you make of the tier list so far? Like any big hassles? I'm gonna take a quick swig of water. Oh, um, let me see. I'm gonna continue chatting with Mario Kart for a bit, and then I'll come back to your comment if you do comment, Oscar. Um, when the bit I like about the connecting tracks though is that it's a very good excuse to listen to the absolutely insane soundtrack this game has. Just like a real the phrase "love letter" to something gets thrown around a lot in games. Like Clair Obscur is a love letter to JRPGs. Um, this and that is a love letter to this genre, so on and so forth. Um, Banging. I'm glad I have your approval, Oscar. um, but I think the absolute magnitude of the impact of this soundtrack is absolutely stunning. The new like music tracks, they're good. I'd say maybe in terms of original tracks, I think 8 does have it trumped slightly more. Um, but the reason why soundtrack gets so many bonus points is because it has just such an insane range of such insanely good music. Like a range of genres, a range of styles, a range of games represented, not just for Mario Kart, but Mario games, like the platformers. Um, Even some like little deeper cuts there, like they had like a remix from MarioWare, for example, which I thought was really surprising. Quite shocking even. Um, but the OST to me that probably bumps it up like at least to one tier. Um, and that's partly why I also like the chance to play on intermission connecting tracks when I can because it's a chance to listen to the banger soundtrack. Um, Gorgeous game as well. I think it's a very pretty game. I've seen some people say that as a step down from Mario Kart 8, which I didn't really appreciate. Like there's sometimes the atmosphere is gone. I do need to drink water. Thank you. Yummy. You can hear my little sippy cup. Maybe coming through my mic when I'm taking a swig. Um, I think if anything, I feel like it does look better. Mario Kart 8. I think Mario Kart 8 definitely nails its own aesthetic. But I think Mario Kart 8, Mario Kart World definitely nails the Mario aesthetic a lot more, especially in terms of like its character models and everything. I really like the animations and how each character looks, and I think to me that makes it a lot cooler, um, a lot nicer than Mario Kart 8 looking back. Um, and another thing I like about the music, I was going to mention that as you approach the track that you're eventually going to be racing on, I like how the music transitions like ramp up to the music. So the general racetrack like goes down, it shallows down, and then um it starts like ramp up. It does like a little bit of like a prelude to the track's main theme, and then when you hit that goalpost to begin that lap, it hits you with the main theme properly, which I think is always such a cool moment when that happens. Um, let's see. I think let me see. The bit where the open world shines the most is the Knockout Tour. I think Knockout Tour is by far like the mode that makes the most use out of the open world. Just having a massive rally from one corner to another corner is really good. And the fact that it is like their own version of Battle Royale in a sense. In the fact that you do still need to keep somewhat in front. So it's not just a case of like, oh, if you're at the back for the majority of like the 10 minutes, you just get a bit right at the end and you'll bump your way into like the first 5 positions. I like that there's a element in Knockout Tour where it's like you still need to keep like some kind of lead among some people if you want to keep on playing. It keeps the tension alive, which I really like. It's a very good mode, and I think that's something that definitely brings it up a tier above previous Mario Kart games. Um, I do wish there were more rallies. I think after you do like 8 rallies, it does get a bit repetitive. But yeah, I definitely prefer it over the main Grand Prix mode, especially as a single player, um, and even for online as well. Um, what else? The main sticking point is the open world. And now this is the bit where I think the game is misunderstood. I think if people come into the open world expecting it as this bigger mode to be like absolutely rinsed for collectibles and everything, I think they're gonna get a bad time. And I think if anything, I would have appreciated that kind of version of a um, of an open world where it is like this packed full of like actual missions, actual like things to do. However, my intent with I think the intent they had with the free roam mode is that it really is meant to be aimless. It is meant to be just a chill out mode. It is there purely for the vibes. I think that's the reason why to get into free roam, it's not even its own dedicated menu option on the main menu. You just have to press plus and you're immediately going in there. It's good just to have like a little muck about in it. which to me I really appreciate. It gets you to appreciate the tracks more as locations rather than just race courses. Because like seeing like all the extra little trinkets and little details that's tucked away to make the tracks feel more alive, which I feel like is an extension of what they did in America 8, where you have the extension of like all of these in-game brands and stuff. That was really interesting to see. Having a whole world built around it, and it's not just the courses. There are actual systems in play to make these tracks feel like a cohesive part of the world. Um, actually stick. I think that's really appreciated, and I think that's really cool. It's cool that you can just like roam around at your own pace, find your own shortcuts, or find your own bits that were always there, but you just never got to yourself. I think that was a really cool bit of free roam mode. It is aimless. It can get a bit boring, but again, if you go into it with like the intention of it as a chill out mode, I think that's what their intention was. I think that's even true from the fact like at launch, it didn't tell you how many P switches or medallions you collected. Um, I think to me, looking, it is annoying, especially for those that would want to like 100% it, which is fair enough. Um, I think the fact that like, they didn't have that counter there is kind of telling the player that's like, oh, you're not really meant to give a shit about this. You can if you wanna, um, but it's not really necessary as such. You're not meant to be treated as something that can be rinsed. It's not meant to be treated as something that you do need to 100%. It is meant to be treated as something just like for downtime here and there. Like it will be a very good stream game. Like if I am to like stream something, I'll probably stream something like this. Yeah, the P switches and collecting coins, it can be very zen. I think what it is. I think the rewards are a bit naff with the stickers. They can have neat designs. I wish there was a way to like customize better use of the stickers. Like if there's a way to like decorate like your banner or something, like you can in Kirby Air Riders, which we'll get into. If you could decorate your own banner or a wall full of stickers, that would have been really cool. But instead it feels kind of worthless in a sense. So I get that complaint. But yeah, exactly, Oscar. It is very much like a turn off your brain kind of mode. Um, if you, yeah, um, definitely overhype it. The stickers are dumb. Yeah. I do like it in a sense that there are neat designs and at least it's something. But yeah, like hardly any use. Like you can't customize the vehicle to your own liking, probably because they don't want people to make a cock and balls in a Mario game, which makes sense. Um, but yeah, I feel like they could have done something better with the stickers. But yeah, I think with this element, yeah, um, yeah, even then with the carts, if you put them in the cart, it's only like one bit of the cart. Even though I don't think that happens on every cart or bike. It's a bit annoying. I mean, you can only do one at a time. So it's more like your own. For me, if you treat the little sticker as your own personal sponsor when you go racing, like, oh, I'm actually sponsored by Roy Sounds as a race, that could be fun. But other than that, it's a bit naff. Um, let's see. I do think this is a bit of an overhated game. I could definitely see the complaints. I'm gonna get onto it now. The main complaint is the £80, well, the £75 for us, $80 price tag. Which has been an exhausting discussion, not unwarranted, um, because it is like such a big jump. Um, yeah, the six are more like achievement. Yeah, um, yeah, that's the thing. If you treat them more of achievements, but even then, it's like not your traditional achievements. It's just for doing P switches or coins or like the little panels. Um, but yeah, in terms of the price tag, I do think it is a little bit cheeky in some of the pricing. I feel like they were a bit arrogant because it's America. Um, I think the quality is there, but it's more like I think there is still little things missing here and there. So for me, I think I do have faith that there can be like some big updates in the future. Like I think 200cc not being here, I think that would be a really fun mode to do. Certain characters missing, like the fact we don't have Diddy Kong in here after coming back in the a booster course pass was weird. Um, the big complaint having not having free laps as a typical option in online races, that's a valid complaint. I get that. For me, it's like I would rather just like go embrace the new change. But many people like being antsy and being like a bit like bitchy, being like, "Oh, like it's a shit game because I'm gonna do free laps." And it's like it's not that bad. I get that. I would rather free lap stuff as an option, but for me, I'm not too bothered about it. I'm just embracing like the new variety of racing. I do think the battle mode is a bit naff. I think the battle mode in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe was very good, especially over the base Mario Kart 8 back on the Wii U. Yeah, did you know like Diddy Kong is just not in the game? Like it's literally only Donkey Kong, and even then, Donkey Kong only has like only two costumes. Um, and Pauline only has two costumes. Yeah, yeah, especially after Bonanza. At the very least, Diddy Kong, because I get like they may not want to do like the whole DK crew, the DK cast, because like it is a Mario game. The DK cast does feel like its own thing. But it'd be nice. It'd be nice to at least get back Diddy Kong. For me, I'm rooting for Funky Kong at least. But it is what it is. Um, right. In the battle mode was very naff. Very disappointing in that. I do hope like the battle mode is changed up again. I do hope more bits in the map become battle ready. I do hope the modes for Shine Thief and Bob and Blast and Renegade Roundup are put back in. I feel like Renegade Roundup could go very well in an open world formula. Um, oh, I got the hiccups. Not good, not good. But yeah, there's like a few missions there, which I think makes the $80 price tag, the 75 price tag of physical really sting, which is valid. Um, the thing that's always pissed me off most about this discussion, though, is that who bought it for that price? I'm willing to bet not that many, because it was bundled on the Switch too. For Americans, they get it for an extra $50, which is not bad. For an extra bundle. But for us in the UK, we only needed to spend like an extra 30 quid to get the Mario Kart bundle, which I think is admittedly a steal for a new Mario Kart game. Especially nowadays, I feel like it would have been a 60 quid game, you know. But yeah, I think that was for me, for us over here in the UK at least. I think that was a fair price. I still don't think the normal price is that nice. I think £70 ish for digital, 75 for physical is a bit steep. But it is what it is. I'm hoping they will update it in the future, and I feel like they will. But Mario Kart World, good game. Overhated, not without its problems, and I think its problems are very much worth mentioning. But I think the core of the game is still there. I think it's still very good. And I hope that many people stop complaining about the $80 price tag at some point, and I really hope that Sonic fans will shut the fuck up about it, because all that's doing is making me want to play Sonic Cross Worlds less. To be honest, I feel like Cross Worlds would be a good game, but many people, many fans are just like, oh, like it mogs the shit out of Mario Kart World, and it's like, just shut up. They can't talk about that game without dissing on Mario Kart World, and it just feels kind of stale. I don't know if that's me being a bit of like a pissy pants or something like that about like how dare you make fun of like my Wahoo man. But it's just exhausting sometimes about the discourse about this game. Um, I think some bits are misunderstood personally. Right. Welcome Tour, Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour. Probably the worst game of this year, which shouldn't be too surprising. I think this is the common consensus. I don't think I'm really breaking any new ground by saying this. I feel like I would be breaking new ground by putting this not in D tier, if it did have a D tier, that is. I still haven't finished it, but I have done enough where I feel like I'm comfortable enough to put it in a C tier. Um, it is a tech demo through and through, Not the fun kind like the Astro's Playing Room, and not the groundbreaking iconic kind like like Wii Sports was. And I think that's where a lot of people's um ire comes from. Like, this is a company that made Wii Sports as a pack-in title that made Wii a massive success. It's such an iconic part of Nintendo's history, I dare say. And so for their big Nintendo Switch 2 tech demo-y kind of thing, it's just a museum with tech demos inside, and it's paid. I think that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, and I think to me, in a way, that was more egregious than the price tag on Mario Kart, to be honest. Um, for what it's worth, though, if you come into it evaluating like the museum aspect of it, having almost like the developer insights into how they create the system, what thought went into it, even like the little details like backwards compatibility and stuff like that. That I appreciate, and I think that's really neat. Um, yeah, well, for us it was like 8 quid, I think. Which isn't the most egregious, but I feel like it would have gone a lot. It would have gone down a lot smoother, and I think it would have been appreciated a lot more if it was a free pack-in. I think the fact that it was a free to many people it makes them seem like, well, this is just a game. This should be a game, and the game side of it is absolute shite because it is just a tech demo, which is a valid complaint. Um, and this is especially true in a post Astro's Playroom world. I don't think everything needs to be Astro's Playroom as such, but the fact that that was a short, free game, and it was a quality game at that, and also showed off what the PS5 could do, I think that's what made it go down a lot nicer. Which is funny considering how the PS5 is kind of received nowadays. Um, so in comparison, Welcome Tour is a bit too alienating. I can see some people why they say it's sterile. I kind of like the aesthetic it's going for in a weird way. It's very like sleek, um, in a way that many people can see sanitized, which is fair. But to me, I'd rather be sanitized and upfront about what it is, which is this museum game, rather than being like coding it with like just full full blown Nintendo characters. Like, I wouldn't say no to that either. But it's kind of like, well, that's kind of like you kind of distracting from the main point, which is it is a welcome tour. It is meant to be this museum. Um, I do need to teach the kiddos. That's very true. Um, well, thank you so much for popping by, Oscar. You're now immortalized when this stream is kept up for two other people to watch in the future, probably. But thank you very much for like coming and keeping me company. It's really appreciate it, Oscar. I will need to come to an NX London soon-ish. Hopefully soon. I'm at least playing a Melrose thing in 2 weeks' time. But yeah, was nice to chat to you. Head off to bed. Night night. Um, hopefully see you soon. Right, let's see. Where are we? Am I still? Yeah. Oh no, I'm still talking about Welcome to. Um, I don't think it's misunderstood. I think it is perfectly understood, and I think that's why people are upset with it. For me, I definitely value the museum aspect of it, and that's why I still put it in C. That's why I still meh and not just a downgrade bad game. I've played bad games before. If anything, I feel like if it was to finish Devil May Cry 2, that would be the only one that belongs in D. Because I do appreciate what Welcome Tour brings. But yeah, it is the fact that you pay for it is a little bit sour. Right, onto the. I feel like this is the biggest Nintendo Switch 2 title for this year. This is the main meat and potatoes in a way. Donkey Kong Bonanza. Bonanza, I feel like I should repronounce it because it's like a banana or banana, so it should be Bonanza. In the Queen's English. So, right off the bat, it shouldn't be surprising. It's gonna be at least good. Shouldn't be shocking. It's at least great. Right at the tip of the top of great. I don't think I'm going to be putting anything else above Bonanza. I don't think. Um, right, Bonanza. Amazing game. I consider Mario Odyssey like probably the best Mario game to me, to be honest. Massive fan of Odyssey. Love how it's moved. Been waiting on a new game ever since from that team. I believe Bonanza is that game. I believe it's the same team. I think it's like slightly different directors and producers, I think. But a lot of the DNA is still tucked in terms of like how you collect the main power ups, the main items of this game. In this case, Monadium gems, which come with a very nice banana, which I always like. It's a very nice thing. I never got old of that. I never got tired of that. So that's very impressive they kept that soundbite for the fresh for the entire game, even when I 100%ed it. Um, let's see. How do I start off? Yeah, just very good, which I feel like is very standard to say. Many people are saying it's very good. But as I was saying, with Mario Kart World, a very key point of a game for me is how does it feel to play? What's the game feel? I think that's what makes Mario Odyssey very good, and that's where I think Donkey Kong Bonanza um, does brilliantly as well, in its own flavor. So instead of like platforming as such and acrobatics, Donkey Kong is a lot more about the destruction nature of it, which does feel very good. It felt good to punch things. Everything had its own little weight. It felt good just like run around. Even like doing like the little like jumps from Donkey Kong Country, how that's translated, where you like roll off an edge, but then you can still jump in mid-air to get like some extra distance, and you could do like a little punch in the mid-air to get like just a slight little bit of horizontal distance as well. Those little feelings of like that little, not exploit as such, but a little bump in airtime just adds a lot to the general game feel of a game, and I think that's what elevates it a lot, in my opinion. Especially in comparison to like other 3D platformers or just any other game in general. It's those little tweaks that make all the difference. So yeah, it just always felt good. The main bit where I feel like Donkey Kong Bonanza actually shines, marketing and the traders will have you believe it's the Bonanza powers, which we'll get into in a bit. For me, it's the terrain and the different interactions it allows. So of course you got your basic ground. You get a lot out of just ripping off a chunk of terrain. You can use it to like hit more terrain because you're gonna get like deal more damage to the terrain, deal more destruction with a chunk of terrain than you are with just your fists. You're gonna be able to ride on the terrain, which eventually you'll be able to surf on water with. So that could be good for like accessing like new areas that you don't want to like slow down or swim for, or mowing for enemies. You can use it to throw at enemies, which is good for like aerial maneuvers, and then you're able to um, let's see the last one, and then lately you'll be able to unlock an ability where you're able to chunk jump. So it acts as a double jump in a way. So you need to be so it's not just out on the blue just doing a double jump. You need to be able to at least have a chunk of something on you. There's a lot of variety to get out of that. But then, even then, as the game progresses, there's a few other things you could do with the terrain. Like, if you hold the terrain, normally you wouldn't think to just hold it, but you could also shield it from, like, thunder or falling lava. You can use it on these grind rails as well, which is really shocking. And then it would deteriorate over time, which is weird. So maybe you'll be able to find nearby material that won't degrade as you do the zipline thing. And every layer, which is essentially this game's kingdoms, um, they all have their own unique interactions in terms of how they function. Well, I say all of them, a good chunk of them do. In the let's see, snow or like other softer material, you could kind of combine them to make makeshift platforms. So if you needed like extra little bit of distance to make a large gap, try stacking up snow together, make yourself a little bit of a edged out platform, and then make the jump. That kind of ingenuity to almost like bypass intended challenges. That kind of like problem solving I really enjoyed. I really liked. That's like the element of like Zelda that I appreciate. Let's see. What other ones? In the treetop layer, the jungle layer, there are these weird nuts that once you throw them, as long as they land on a piece of wood, it creates its own pathway of vines to where you start throwing it from, creating its own sense of problem solving. Like, where is a tree trunk to throw the seed onto? How would I then be able to use this vine best to my advantage? Would I be able to use that vine to create a piece of terrain that allow me to like surf on the poison water? Would I be able to use it to hit an enemy? There are so many different outcomes from the terrain in this game and how they interplay with one another and the mechanics that grow from that. One of the standout bits, it has this like weird, um, it has this weird, oh, what's it? This weird mechanic where as you hit it on one part of the terrain, it reforms in a connected part of the terrain somewhere else. It's very hard to describe, but I feel like if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about, and it's very cool. It creates some very cool problem solving in terms of how you create platforms for yourself using this really weird mechanic of as you punch a space, as you destroy the terrain of this block, it creates terrain in another block. There's some really cool moments there, and the game is actually quite full of those kind of moments. Um, where the game falls apart, I feel like the very mind of it. I feel like the music doesn't stand out so much. The music's not bad by any stretch, but I feel like it had less impact than I was expecting it to, which I thought was a bit of a bummer. I don't know if that's because you're doing a lot of destructing, um, but I don't know. To me, it didn't feel like it stood out that much. The main problem for me were the bonanzas actually. I think very good little power ups. I think they're quite fun to deal with. They all kind of enhance the main element of destruction in some way or another, or something to enhance your moveset. However, I'm going to take a quick swig of water. Mm-mm-mm. Yummy. Um, where bonanzas failed, I feel like it made life a bit too. It made life a bit too easy in a game where I felt like such a genius for like bypassing certain obstacles, just like getting out a bonanza and just like making that even easier without much of a thought behind it. It was kind of lame. It kind of took away the magic a little bit. Um, they they really shine in their own dedicated sections. So sometimes there's challenge rooms where you need this bonanza to in order to go in. You need to keep this bonanza on you for the entire challenge. Those bits I like. Those bits I've really enjoyed, and I think that is where those bonanzas shine the most. Um, but yeah, for the powers they offer, they can be a bit too overpowering. Like I think the zebra was okay. The ostrich was whatever. I think the Kong makes the most sense. I think the fact that you have just a supercharged version of your normal move set was a lot of fun. I think that makes sense. Stick was okay. I think that's good for vertical movement, and especially when you can chain that with chunk jumps. And it has a little like slow down ability, which I thought was neat as well. The elephant though, the elephant feels way too overpowered. Like you could just inhale terrain so easily. That kind of negates many other challenges. Like, and it ruins like the game feel in a way of punching, which is so satisfying to do, especially as Kong Bonanza as well. Um, the bit where I worry is that the game has a skill system where instead of needing the Bananium Gens to progress like you would with stars or moons in Mario 3D games, the Bananium Gems they go towards skill points, which again upgrade Donkey Kong. Which part of it I like. I think that's probably the best way they're gonna go about it if they need to make it be as freeform of an experience as it is. Um, I kind of like how they kind of interleave that, so I guess that makes sense. But it also makes the Bonanzas very overpowered, especially the Elephant. By the time you max everything out, and that kind of ruined like almost all the fun. So for most of the game, if you're using Bonanzas as much as you can, it's gonna be a very lame time because for one, they can last quite a long time, and two, you get them recharged very, very easily. You just need to collect the gold, and that bar charges up immensely quickly. It can be charged even quicker with like a little item that charges it instantly, which aren't too hard to find. Like you don't even have to look for them, and it's just a bit of a shame. I don't know. I wasn't too keen on the Bonanza transformations. I did like them, but I think they were definitely a sour point, and I think it kind of diminished the experience as a whole. If something is relied on the Bonanza transformations, they're very good. But if you're doing a general gameplay, which is most of the time, it's kind of mid. Uh, but yeah, the general moveset of Donkey Kong himself, in addition to Pauline, who I feel was like quite a nice side character, I thought it was quite nice. Um, Real quick though, I do want to mention I was debating on if I should include this in my tier list. It did receive DLC. I don't think it should have. I don't think it should have received paid DLC, especially not at that price. Especially because I feel that the post game of Bonanza was a bit lacking, especially in comparison to Odyssey. I just feel like what it could have done, um, I feel like was a lot less special. Um, for what they did here, though, um, the DLC, I think having the island being DK Island, to me that would have been such a perfect, like post game content, post game surprise. So for that to be locked was a bit naff. I didn't really like that. Tied to that though is the Emerald Rush mode. I don't think that's been paid DLC because it is just an extra mode. I do get why it could be paid because there is like a lot more wrinkles in comparison to Odyssey's free mode. However, I did actually enjoy what I played of it. It does get repetitive after a while. But what I did appreciate about Emerald Rush was that it kind of exemplifies the destructive nature of Donkey Kong Bonanza and pushes it to extremes, making that the sole focus in this like mad dash for a higher score. I really appreciated Emerald Rush. I don't think I didn't appreciate being paid. I don't think that was a bit of a waste of money. If I was to add this, I would put that NC. I think it was a very fun mode, but I think the fact that it does feel rather limiting in what it is. Like, I don't think you get any new fun. It is presented as this weird roguelite mode, um, but the challenging runs they go on for a bit too long for what you're doing. A bit too repetitive, and they don't offer any new fun abilities. Like I think part of the charm of roguelites is how do you unlock new abilities and how do they synergize, and part of that is in here. But it's mostly to do with like your score multiplier, which I feel like can be fun to see numbers go up, but a bit lame otherwise in terms of the gameplay experience. That's my only issue with it, really. But yeah, it was a fun mode, but it shouldn't be paid. I feel like tagging that on for 20 quid extra is a bit harsh, especially since that's the normal price for extra DLC. It's a bit weird. It felt like a bit. Ugh, I don't know. Anyway, DK Bonanza done. I think that's the main point. I think from here, I'm kind of going off on a whim. I've is the seat taken and UFO 50 to go off of, and then I'm kind of off talking off the cuff from no notes because I'm lazy and I ran out of time. Next one is the sig taken. Very very pleased with this one. I think I'm going to put that at the top of B. I think. Once again, a weird game that's like in the realms between. I wouldn't strictly say it's better than, let's say, Xenoblade X. However, I definitely enjoyed it more because what it offered was a very good experience from start to beginning. Is this a taken? It's a collection of the puzzle logic games where the levels are full of these full of these logic puzzles where you need to deduce between who is where can everybody sit. Everyone has their own little requirement. Everyone has their own little conditions that they need to meet in order to be happy. You can only progress, I think, once everyone is seated. But yeah, there is a solution, and I personally wasn't satisfied until every person was seated nicely. And that made for a really fun experience. Because I love these kind of puzzles whenever they crop up. I love these kind of puzzles in Professor Layton, so to get a whole game of these puzzles was really nice. Um, what I what I did appreciate about it, how it's presented, is that it's not just a puzzle and then you go and you do the next level. What it is that each level in each of the 5 or 6 cities you visit, they're comprised of puzzles in between. And what it is, after you do one puzzle, you move on to the next group of people to come in. Sometimes your solutions to an earlier puzzle in the level directly impacts your solution in a later puzzle in the level. So, for example, one level sees you going to the cinema. And so many people being like, "Oh, like I'm having popcorn," which is okay, whatever, they can sit anywhere. But then a person may be like, "I want to be able to eat popcorn," so they have to sit next to someone that has some popcorn, right? After the after that level is done, the people leave the theater. You then need to tackle the next puzzle, the next group of people. A person doesn't want a messy floor, which may feel like is a bit of a weird one. But there's popcorn left over from the previous puzzle that's been left on the floor. So then you think, okay, so that person definitely can't sit there. And that may add like some extra wrinkles in your solutions, which I actually thought was a really neat twist on it. Made it a lot more different. Sometimes I have like different aspects, like if they're sports games, they may want to be standing instead of sitting, so you may raise their seat up. But then you have people that don't want to be sitting behind someone that's standing, so you need to factor that in. The whole game is full of these like puzzles. Each of the characters are like delightfully annoying in the most weird ways. But I liked it. I liked it a lot. I really appreciated it. I don't think it was great. I don't think it was outstanding. But for what it was, I really appreciated it. Let's see. I believe someone is. Well, I don't think they're joining the stream now, which is a bit of a bummer. I wish someone was joining. Um, Oscar, I am missing you. Right, let's see. The last one I have notes for, UFO 50. Um, a hard one to place because I've only played 20 out of the 50 games. If I had the foresight, I'd be tempted to put it in S. For what it's worth, though, I am putting it, I would say, for me, I'm going to be quite comfortable in putting it here. This is based on the fact that I haven't completed it. And by it, I mean the 50 games. So I've only played 20 of the 50 games so far. I've only completed a handful of them because a lot of them are arcadey, and I'm shit at games. So a lot of them I didn't really get to gold, so I didn't beat them. However, those 20 games I have played so far are so well crafted in their diversity and their execution that I have massive faith that the other 30 are gonna follow suit in one way or another. You're not gonna like every game. Like even now, I know. Okay, I'm definitely not gonna give a fuck about this game. I'm not gonna give a fuck about this other game. But I gave every game a shake. I tried every game. I played every game, which I definitely appreciate after going to Gamescom. Like after I try out like the indie games and stuff, giving it a little go, seeing what sticks, what doesn't stick for me, finding something to like. This is kind of that aspect, but like taken to its full degree because UFO 50 it has this collection of 50 games, this fictional company's 50 games from the 80s, which you could believe in a sense. Each of these games have its own little backstory, like this own little blurb being like, oh, this is why this game was created. This is the impact this game had on either our office, on our team, or the gaming landscape as a whole. We created this game to take advantage of our new hardware. It had like every game has like a little blurb like that, which I thought was really neat. Um, And there's some fake names in there of this fictional company that you see cropping up here and there, which I thought was quite nice. It may play a bigger part in the future. I'm not too sure, but I'm looking forward to seeing how that pays off. It's just a magnificent collection of like little games. What's fascinating is that they are very much quality. If it doesn't hit for me, it's probably going to hit for somebody else. If I'm not liking it, I'm definitely appreciating it. Like there's this one game where it's like a top-down adventure game where it's golf. Um, where how you move is you only get so many strokes before you die and you return to your last checkpoint. So you have to reach another checkpoint before all your strokes are done. Which may seem limiting, but it's almost like a puzzle, almost like a Metroidvania in the sense that like you can only make further progress as you unlock further abilities. So like a chump or like a chip shot, for example, as you update your equipment to allow you to do more powerful shots, as you allow yourself to get more strokes in before you die, things like that. I I wasn't having the best of fun with it, but I definitely appreciate for what it was, and I think that's what is at the heart of UFO 50 is that it has such a wide variety of games, even amongst the 20 I've played. Um, and I really appreciate for what it is. It's a very cool piece of gaming media. By the end of next year, by the end of this year rather, by the end of 2026, as I keep on playing it here and there, I can see it bumping up to peak because I think it's a very special game. I think it's very well made, a magnificent idea, great, done to its fullest potential. Right, 7 games. I will be here probably for another hour, knowing me. Chibi Robo. This is one I finished off this year. I am putting it in a B tier. When I was first playing it, I would be thinking about bottom of A. Let me see. Would it be top of B? Would it be top of B? I don't know. I think I may put Chibi Robo just under Xenoblade X. I think Xenoblade X. I think I have like a bit too much negativity going on about like the side content and stuff, but I think the overall quality is there. Um, Damn, would I put Xenoblade X above? I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, that's a weird one. Um, nah, I think I'm gonna put it there for now. Anyway, Chibi Robo. Really appreciating that GameCube is coming to the NSO. Everybody raves about the GameCube lineup. So being able to play it officially because I'm a sucker for official media was really nice to have. Chibi Robo was one of those cult classics that like caught my attention for a while, so I was really happy to see it come early on in the GameCube NSO's life. I really like it. It's a really neat game. Basically, the premise of this game is that you're a little robot has been bought and has been set up to help out this family, the Sandersons. And you go about helping out in their chores, like so you clean up after them, you collect rubbish, little bits like that, and basically collecting happy points. So you want to make life happier for the Sandersons, and also for the toys that you encounter at midnight. So at night time, toys come to life. They roam about their own little environments. They have their own little missions to complete. It's a very charming game because of that. It does also have like a bit of like meat to it as well. Because as you are a robot, you need the energy in order to like work. You need the energy in order to complete tasks. As you do your tasks, you need to be using up energy to restore your battery. Because you only have like let's say every time you do anything, even if you're walking, even if you're brushing off dirt off the floor with a toothbrush, you are using energy. Once that's done, you go kaput. You need to return to home base, and you lose some of the in-game currency. And of course, you lose time. Oh yeah, you're on a time limit as well, which is weird to think about. So you kind of it's that process of like need to be efficient in your tasks as well, which I did like. I did appreciate that. And along the way, you get extra tools and extra costumes. This is where, in a way, it's kind of a Metroidvania, not in terms of environment, but more like Getting access to new tools and new costumes allow you to solve different problems, which allow you to access new areas, which will allow you to access new characters, which will allow you to access new problems, and so on and so forth. Um, so that was like kind of a fun gameplay hook. It can get tiring after a while. Like it is a little bit of like, okay, I still need to head here. I still need to do the long route to go upstairs every day. It's a little bit annoying. I wish there was a little bit more available shortcuts, especially for certain places. Like if you want to go from the outside to one of the rooms upstairs, that's a rather big trek, and that was a bit annoying. Especially for a small environment on a time limit. But it is what it is. Um, the game that like the bit where it kind of shook me is that there is a little bit of meat. So I was talking about like the energy bit before getting sidetracked before explaining that whole mechanic. There's a little bit where it's like it does keep track of how many times you've recharged. As you learn more about the family, you understand that the family's struggling. Like they have like these bills they need to pay off, and so you kind of like get this like sense of guilt that you're this robot trying to help out, and you need this energy in order to do the work. But it's kind of with the like subtext that like doing this will probably bring the Sandersons further bills which they will not be able to pay, bringing them into further financial troubles. To the point that there is a conflict within the family, which I thought was quite surprising to see, but quite cool. Um, some things felt a bit unnecessary. Some things felt like a bit weird. Some things felt a bit archaic, to be honest. So sometimes when you're approaching an edge, sometimes it will give you like a little bit of a buffer to be like warning you, being like, "Oh, careful, you're gonna fall. If you do fall, you'll take damage. Your energy will drain. So obviously, you don't want to do that." But sometimes it won't do that. It won't give you that prompt, which is very annoying. There's this one aspect in the back garden where it doesn't allow you to do that, and so you take a massive fall. So you don't have enough energy. You're fucked, which is a bit annoying. My main issue is more like about the speed and the tempo of the game. It doesn't allow you to skip, and as you talk to people, you have to so like for example in an Ace Attorney game or a Banjo game, you know like there's that little like noise when the text is appearing on the screen, but you can hit A to just see the text all in one go, and you're fine. Well, I think that happens in Banjo. It definitely does happen in standard Ace Attorney games. You can't do that in Chibi Robo, so you have to listen to the whole character do their like whole little voice lines, see the text read up, and as someone that's quite a fast reader, that was very annoying. The voices they do is very funny. I like how each character has his own unique voice to provide, but it's very annoying. And it felt a bit of time wasting. But yeah, so it does feel archaic in places, but for what it is, it's a very charming game and um, very much worth the effort to play if you have GameCube NSO. Let's see. Has any more chats come in? No. Okay, that's fine. Right. Let me see. Still going healthy, it seems. That's nice. Let me see. Back to here. Let's see. I am going to give myself a lozenge because my throat is actually dying here. Fucking knew this happened. Like I yap too much, and then my throat just goes. Yeah, would it be in B? I think I would. I would definitely put it above Symphony Night. I definitely gain a lot more from it because it's very charming and very unique. However, I think a little bit annoying and a little novelty does wear off a little bit. A good chunk into it, and that's where my issue lies. Right, next one. Silksong. Oh, I'm gonna rustle some feathers here. Um, Silksong. Very prestigious. I get why it gets a lot of acclaim. For me, it's definitely an A. If I'm talking about feelings, I'd be tempted to put it down a B, but I am putting it down an A. I am probably gonna put it. above Rivals, I think. I mean, up below Mario Kart World. What the fuck are you doing? Let me explain. For me, I think Silksong is a very incredibly well made game. I think if it did one game of the year, I'd be like, oh, whatever. But I wouldn't contest it. I'd be like, yeah, I can see why that makes sense because everything is so meticulously designed, so well intentioned. Um, the world itself is like very massive. There's clearly a lot of thought that's gone into it and into the lore. The lore, by the way, I can't give a shit of. I understand there is lore in Silksong, especially after it relates to the original Hollow Knight. If I was a Hollow Knight fan, I'd be absolutely eating it up. But I was never really into the story. I realized this is going to be very annoying listening to me having the sweet in my mouth. I feel like there's a lot of like mouth noises that's happening whilst I'm chatting, which is not nice. But I need something to do with Lenny and Hammond, so this lozenge was all I could do. Um, sorry. Um, what is it? Yeah, it's a very good game. Stunning presentation, very good music. I am gonna say it, and I feel shit for saying this. I do think it's a bit too hard. It's too hard and also too big, which is wild because I think the world is very well designed. I think it's very well done and well executed, but for Metroidvania, it just feels too big. Um, and as someone that's not in it for the lore or the main story, the new areas don't really hit me. Like if there's some lore implication, it doesn't really hit for me. It, most areas do have its own unique gimmick, which I appreciate. Its own little section of the world, which is nice. But I just felt like it was a bit too big for me personally. Um, but yeah, it was also um, too difficult for me, for my liking. Um, at its best, I don't know why I said that so loud. At its best, when you're fighting against very good bosses, it is very good. I love the push and pull. I love like the fluid movement they can do. I like the enemy pans; they feel unique. I feel some like the cogwork dancers, a fucking amazing boss fight. I feel like I shouldn't have found it as difficult as it was, but it was really good for what it was. Fascinating. Yeah, I was wondering if that was my computer or the car outside. Um, fascinating. Bosses at its worst are absolutely dire. They do feel like hell sponges, and it feels like they should have gone to the next phase a while ago. They should have been stunned a good while ago. Why the fuck is this continuing for so long? I'm not a fan. The reason why I think it's too difficult for me, it is the fact like a lot of, and I say this a lot on Blue Sky, a lot, a lot of things do 2 damage in this game. A lot, and that really sound my experience of it because it's like it kind of, it's a weird one where I get that it's meant to be a brutal world, it's meant to make you more careful. But when the fight is already so challenging enough, making them extra punishing by dealing 2 hits, um, it just felt so cruel. Um, and to me, I understand that you can heal three masks worth of damage as you go along, but you may not even get that chance to. Like for one slip up, you may already be dead at full health. Like it kind of mitigates the impact I get of getting a new mask. For example, I get a new piece of health, but it's like, then what's the fucking point? I need another mask just to make it feel worth it, and even then, it feels like I'm only doing that just to survive one extra 2 hit damage from any enemy. Um, I don't think the tells or anything necessarily feel unfair. The only thing I feel feels unfair is like I get that contact damage exists. I don't think the contact damage should have been 2 masks worth. I think that's a bit too overboard. Just make it 1 merc because I get spacing is important. I get you shouldn't be banging into your opponents. That's an okay design decision. Why is it 2 damage though? If it's just a little bit of a misstep, only by a smidge, even when they're not even attacking. I don't know. I thought that was a bit of a piss take, to be honest. Um, but yeah, when so I'd rather the two masks damage be worth saved for the bigger bosses or more important bosses to make them more imposing. But instead, it's just wasted by every fucking thing in the world, and it's just a bit tiring for me personally. Um, Gameplay side of it. Hang on, my there we go. My mic just came a bit loose there. Everything gameplay wise is solid. It is super solid. It is very well done. So I don't want to harp on the game too much, but for me that was a bit too much. Um, uh, the other thing on difficulty, which I don't really like, which feels like another design decision I'm not really agreeing with. Well, two actually. One is the corpse run mechanics, so once you die. The fact about Metroidvania is that once you die, you're able to like retrace your steps, either try attacking the boss again using what you learned, or go and explore somewhere else and power up, get stronger, get more experience. Getting powered up more to me only counted to getting more spool for extra moves, which is cool. That's definitely appreciated. Getting new tools, which is fun to experiment with, but because you're going to only equip like so many that would actually help you in combat at a time, it's definitely a bit iffy. Um, what else? With the customization could do, it's definitely chunky. There's a lot of ways to go about things, which I really appreciate, but often like I only gravitate to like so few things, which is a bit annoying. Um, what else? But the corpse run. If you die in a boss, especially in like some really hard bosses, if you want to get your spool back, the stuff that you spent time upgrading for, if you want to get your rosaries back that you spent a lot of time getting or haven't had the chance to like convert into bees for storage, you need to go back into the boss fight, get that corpse, and then go for the boss fight again. Which I think is just why can they not just have it so like the cocoon that you collect your stuff from only respawns just before the room? I don't know. I was just very annoyed by that. And it kind of like dampens like why did they do that way? Like, is it a programming thing? Is it a fact of like they wanted to add the difficulty? But if they do, it kind of goes directly against what it means to be a Metroidvania, in my opinion. Like a Metroidvania, you should be able to choose your path to then explore if you're at a crossroads. And admittedly, that does bring me to a good point. The magic of Silksong. I was really stuck on Last Judge, which is the final boss of Act 1. I was really stuck. I thought, okay, maybe to recover my cocoon just enough so I could grab it and then go back out. If I wasn't able to, I'd be fucking killing this game. I think that would have been so shit. Anyway, I grab my cocoon, I grab my stuff back, or at least I just give up on it anyway. I try experimenting, seeing where else I haven't gone. I go through this really hard area itself, but I persevere, and eventually I get to the Citadel, the main goal of the first act, through a completely different back route. And it's that kind of magic of a Metroidvania that I massively appreciate, and that's why I think Silksong is, at its heart, a very good game. There are just some decisions for me where I felt like a bit baffling. And I feel like a bit weird saying that, placing it below Mario Kart World, where I feel like World should have had easier slam dunks, but for Silksong to be regarded as it is, as like such a pinnacle of its genre, I think it has some things that I feel like go directly against what it means to be a Metroidvania to me personally. Again, I'm not the authority, and it's not like Silksong is a bad Metroidvania. It's very good. The world is very well connected, very well designed. It feels fun to move around in, which I feel are the essentials of Metroidvania. One real last thing before I end Silksong, I did not like how Act 3 is hidden. If they didn't have the Act 1, Act 2, Act 3 structure, I'd be fine. But if you're gonna go through the effort of Act 1 and Act 2 and have the third act with the true ending hidden behind all of these other extra requirements, I think that's kind of a piss take, to be honest. If it was just like a little extra like side content, then that's okay. But from my understanding, Act 3, I haven't finished it yet, but from my understanding, Act 3 is its own separate act, like Act 1. It's its own main portion of the game, especially at how Act 2 ends. If you end it like normal, it's such a sour note. It's so dire. It was a bit of a sad note, and not a bit of a sweet kind of bit, being like, well, that was kind of shit. Like, why the fuck did I bother doing all this game just to get to here? You know, I don't know. I didn't feel that much invested in the lore, and I get that's on me. I didn't feel that much invested in the lore to appreciate that bad ending. Um, right. Let me see. But yeah, I don't like that big story content being hidden behind like so many other things. I'm never a fan because it kind of like makes side content not side content anymore. It makes it needed. It makes it compulsory. It goes against like you. Like there may be, I imagine there would be some story semblance, some emotional semblance of you going out your way to do these side quests. As a gameplay side of it though, is a bit naff. You know, for me, like all these extra requirements, like was kind of dire. Let me see. Um, where is she? Right. Let me see. What are we doing next? Sorry, I got distracted by work for real quick. 5 games. Can we finish? Can we finish? Maybe. Probably by that. I yap too much. I need to get back into doing podcast. I say that, but then I want to yap too much, and the episodes will be fucking long again anyway. Um, but I needed this out of my system. I've been like running this kind of stream in my head for like fucking ages, which feels sad to say, but I really like doing shit like this. Um, so I think that's my grades for Silksong. Good game, a very good game. Very, I imagine it's worth the wait. I'm glad fans like the wait. I'm glad there was one Metroidvania this year after a long, long wait that actually lived up to expectations. Right, Final Five. Honestly, a very good way to end the year. Pokemon Legends ZA. I'm gonna be honest. I really appreciate Legends ZA. I am going to be bold and put that at the bottom of A. Do I? I don't know. To me, I think Pokemon games. I love the franchise. I make sure to always play a main entry when I can. But it's definitely part of that is part of the nostalgia. It's one of the only games that I play almost exactly as I play with a kid. I don't care much for the what is the matter. I go like whoever's cool, I go with that Pokemon. Um, and now and I still play with like if I'm doing a new game in a new region, I try to pick that region's Pokemon or at least something to do with that Pokemon. In this case, it was like Colossalian Pokemon, but also ones that are able to Mega Evolve. So like Charizard and like Gardevoir and shit like that. Um, the Legends, I think, so Arceus and now ZA, they've been the most interesting Pokemon series I've been in a while. Taking the core mechanics of Pokemon, but like really messing about with like what else can we do? What does it even mean to be a Pokemon game? Not my preferred style of main game because I think I'm still nostalgic. Well, not nostalgic as such, but like I still like the general aspect of exploring new region, seeing new characters, new music, new environments, and of course new Pokemon. Um, like I'm a kid again. I still like that aspect of Pokemon. But I appreciate Legends as like a little bit of side thing, and it allows different regions and different stories to exist without the need to like reinvent the wheel entirely. So I'm glad Legends is its own sub-series, this is its own little thing, rather than being like, yeah, this is the future of Pokemon. It's part of the future of Pokemon, which I think is which is a lot better. All right, onto Legends ZA. Let's see, why is it an A? Because for me, for Pokemon games, I'd say most of the time I'd only put them in B, and that's even for like the good ones. I haven't played the quote unquote good ones like Black and White, Black and White 2, Platinum, Heart Gold, and Soul Silver. The Sinnoh games are very close to my heart, so if I'm talking about like a sentimental value, Platinum would be high up there. But even then, I don't think I'd put many above. If they're an A, they will never go into S for me personally. Because I much prefer the franchise over the games itself. I still prefer the. Let me see. How do I explain it? I I like the franchise a lot. I care a lot about the franchise. I have a lot of affinity towards the franchise. In terms of the games behind it, though, not too fussed. And it's the games that keeps me coming back, right? They're still the main focus of it, at least for me. So it's not the anime, it's not the card games. It is the games. It is the mainline games. Um, the thing I appreciate most about Legends ZA is its new combat system. They've, for some reason, adopted real-time battling, which I think worked a lot better than I would have thought. It made battles be a lot more quick, a lot more snappy, a lot more fun. I feel like, especially to take advantage of like the new space, your positioning, and like how do you plan out your moves was a lot of fun. How they, let me see what else. What I did like was, sorry, I realized my lips are smacking a lot as I'm sucking on this lozenge. Um, what I did appreciate, it kind of gives space with the timing system. It gave space for like me to consider just status moves because often in the mainline games, because it's just turn-based RPGs, I'm like, if it's not doing damage, I want nothing to do with it. I need to be doing damage every turn. But in this game, because it's on a time-based system, you can do like one heavy attack, and before that cooldown is restored, you can fill in the void by doing a status move to then power up your next time you do that massive fuck off attack. Which I like. I like that it allows for different strategies to play that you may be expected to in normal gameplay. Um, I think Return of Megas was cool. I was never too fussed about Megas, but I think since this game, I've had a bit more of an appreciation for Megas, especially because there's a lot more Mega Pokemon, especially because there's Mega Pokemon from the region they originate in. Like actually having Mega Pokemon from Kalos is massively appreciated. Some very cool designs, which for me is a massive part of why I enjoy Pokemon games. Um, what I do appreciate, what I never appreciated about Megas before, is that you kind of always needed one of them. Um, Part of me, what I don't like about Legends ZA, about the battling system, is that when you Mega Evolve a Pokemon, when that time goes out, um, you can then Mega Evolve a different Pokemon after a certain amount of time as well. So you need to like build up some sort of like energy first of all, which is okay. So there's at least like some kind of limit to it, but it kind of like negates the point where it's like, well, may as well have all of your party be Mega Pokemon. Um, I see. Yeah, I really fucking did need like list out my thoughts better than just thinking of it off the cuff. Um, let's see. Mega Pokemon was nice to see return. I appreciate the new designs. I just saw the new designs that came on the DLC today as well. I didn't pick up the DLC. I had no interest, but the new designs are really cool. I really like Mega Staraptor, which is really which is really sick. And and for me, it's always like having a journey with a Pokemon is what still keeps me coming back, which I really appreciate. I think they did a good job in Legends today, despite it taking place only in one city. I was quite worried at first. I think they made it work for what it is. They worked within the scope quite well. I liked how they utilized the rooftops as well to allow for like some more dynamic spaces. I think they definitely had a bigger focus on the battling system this time instead of like the catching bit. The catching element, I really liked in Arceus. It felt really cool to like be out there in the wild with no one else, with just the wild and you. Um, to think about and how do you survive? Like, what tools do you use? Like, do you use a smoke ball? Do you use the nearby environments to shield yourself? What do you do? Whereas those mechanics mostly return in ZA. In terms of like how do you creep up against Pokemon? How do wild Pokemon interact with you, as well as other Pokemon? But the wild areas you have, which are like enclosed sections of Lunar City, they just feel lesser in a way. And sometimes you kind of have to kind of run with it. Like there's one section where it is just completely covered in ice and snow, which makes no fucking sense. But it's like, well, we gotta have a snow section. So I guess that's how they weaved in a snow section, which felt a bit weird to me. Um, but it is what it is. Um, let's see. Illumia said it was okay. I quite liked enjoy running around. It was quite neat. The story itself was nice. I did like the story. The characters were really nice as well. I cared a lot about the characters. Um, the story itself is like it is whatever, but I appreciated it. No, no. Um, I appreciated it for what it was, especially since it gave more insight to Kalos itself, which I feel like was always a bit unrepresentative. I never gave too much for Toss backs, and while looking back, I did enjoy those games when I first played them. Looking back, I'm like, I can't be bothered. So I'm glad that I gave a chance for me to care about Kalos. Um, for at least the first time in ages, which was nice. Um, what else? Definitely weird playing on the Switch too. It felt very weird having it run actually well and 60 frames per second. Not unappreciated it. But yeah, it was okay. It was good. You can definitely still see like it's not a full on AAA release. That I think many people still expect from Pokemon, which I think would be nice. But at this point, after so many years, I'm like, yeah, it's Game Freak. I'm in it for Pokemon like I am a kid. I'm gonna treat it like I would be as a kid. I'm not gonna care too much about graphics or something like that. Um, let's see. What I was gonna end on? What I was gonna end on is well, I've already talked battling, so that's kind of goes hand in hand with the ZA Royale. I like that format. Um, the music is insane. I love the. It makes sense though because Insane Remain Music, who I was a big fan of when he did cover music of video game soundtracks. He worked on the game. He worked on the soundtrack, and he did an amazing, outstanding job on it. Crazy how well of a job he did. Um, yeah. Yeah. Legends ZA, good game. Good game, honestly. Um, yeah, yeah. Okay, yeah. No. This is checking out. That's fine. Okay, right. Let me see. What's next? I've got four more. I can do this. I should be done by 11. I say that, and then I'm gonna have a massive talk about Inazuma 11 Victory Road. I've been waiting for this game for so fucking long. To preface real quick, I am slightly worried about level 5, because the CEO seems to be really heavy into CEO. Not CEO. The CEO seems to be really heavy into AI and maybe Gen AI stuff. So I'm really hoping none of that has creeped its way into Inazuma 11 Victory Road, at least not as final assets. But I'm really hoping they didn't put any of that into like creating the story or the scenario for this game. Because for me, as a massive Inazuma 11 fan, this was worth the wait. I think I was happy. Well, maybe not fully. I think they may have overcooked some bits, but I'm very happy with what they've done here. Um, I am going to put it, admittedly, above Silk Song. Admittedly, a very guilty pleasure pick. This. Um, so Inazuma 11 is this game about junior high school kids that play football. Um, but it's hyper dimensional in the sense that you have like this really like out there special moves, and you have this like really um almost like drama heavy narrative where it is like these young people wanting to play football, sharing a love for the game. What does it mean uh, to be the best? What does it mean to play football? So even as a football not a fan, I've always loved the Inazuma 11 series. So been waiting for this game longer than Silksong. So Silksong I know it has been a long wait coming, but as a Hollow Knight fan, I was like, as not a big Hollow Knight fan, I was like whatever towards Silksong wait. Inazuma 11 has been such a long road to finally get released. And so I'm finally happy it's here, and I'm happy that the main story, at least, which is the bit I was mainly hankering for, the new Inazuma 11 story, well, one of the things I was hankering for, it was good. It was a good story. It was pleasant. Some bits I wish was, I felt like some bits were undercooked. But the main bit of it was very pleasantly done. I think it kept the spirit of the original alive in a new setting with some new cast and new characters, and I liked the story it told. I thought it was very worthwhile. Um, the actual gameplay involved. Normally in the story, you don't get into gameplay about like 3 or 4 hours into the actual like soccer football gameplay into it, which is a bit annoying. Um, but the general football gameplay is very good. It is what is making me tempted to go back to complete the extra stuff, which I'm going to get into in a bit. It just feels very fluid. Every position feels needed. Passing feels good. Shooting, chaining shots together with special moves somehow. Using tactics effectively, good. Just the active nature of when you're trying to contest the ball, either when you're in possession or you're trying to gain possession. It felt good. It felt active. It felt quick. Uh, it just feels good. It feels good and fluid and feels quick. A lot better than how it's played in the past. I'm very happy with the final way to translate Inazuma 11 into a modern day template. Um, Let me see. Some little hiccups in there, but mostly okay in terms of how it controls. The other main mode is the Chronicle mode. This is what takes place across the entirety of the franchise, of the anime franchise. So you play all of the key matches from the anime. So every big match, every big episode, you're playing against that team. So from my knowledge, no team is left out. So you're playing every team in the championships at nationals and internationals in the first 3 games. You're playing the games from the Go trilogy, which has you go through time and has you go into outer space. Fucking wild. So it's cool to experience those stuff. But what's cool is that they will be adding routes for Ares and Orion. These two were anime only installments, so they were meant to be the new games. But through development hell, and quite frankly, because I think the stories were quite shit, I imagine they got shelved for one reason or another. It'll be good to finally experience what those matches would have been like in gameplay format. So even though I'm not necessarily a fan of those sections, I'm actually really looking forward to trying them for the first time. Um, let's see. My hiccups with the game. There is still some technical issues. So even on the Switch 2 version, I don't know if this is exclusive to the Switch 2 version or not, but for something that's been cooking for so long, the fact that it has so many technical issues, like sometimes the game has just crashed, sometimes the game has softlocked me, sometimes the game has, after quitting single player, has randomly transformed me directly into Chronicle mode, somehow. Very odd bugs. And it feels like they should have been ironed up. So I don't know if this is a Switch 2 exclusive problem because it's a new system. Level 5 didn't have enough time to prep it for Switch 2. I don't know. But yeah, a bit disappointing. The other bit as well, I feel like they kind of overcooked it. In efforts to try and make it a lot more in depth and um, tactical, which I can appreciate in terms of like stats and stuff. There are so many passive bonuses going on. There are so many extra whatever going on that it feels a bit overwhelming, and I don't think it's really explained the best. Um, and I think the things that you can customize, I think they went a bit too overboard. I don't think. I wish that characters would have default moves, their default moves unlocked, but instead you have to find the moves first. You need to obtain their own moves, their own little orbs. Then you need to equip them with the characters, which is like that kind of defeats the whole point of the character in a way. It feels. Let's see. There's this weird, um, like a bond system where you have a cork board and you can get a bit of like photos of your teammates and you can like draw connections, which is neat. Um, but again, it just feels a bit too useless. It feels like what is the point of having this? Like I had to wait like another year or something for this to be added. I had to wait another year for a town maker system to be added. I don't know. It probably hits for some people. It just doesn't hit for me. I feel like level 5 should have focused on getting more priority straight and then adding in the bonus stuff. Or think about what purpose does this extra function add to our game? Does this need to be in here? And I wish they actually changed something about that. I don't know. But yeah, Ninja 11 for what it's worth, I'm really happy it exists. I'm really happy it's out. I'm looking forward to playing more of that. Right, final three. Right, half an hour. I think I could do this. Kirby Air Riders. Oh, what do I put this as? In terms of pure fun, I think I may put this at the top of A. However, I think I am going to put Kirby Air Riders just below UFO 50. I'm tempted to put it above UFO 50 because at least I know the whole shebang of Kirby Air Riders, but I'm not going to. Um, let's see. Do I put it above UFO 50? I think UFO 50 has a higher chance of trumping Kirby Air Riders by the time I'm done with UFO 50, so I'm keeping it there. Kirby Air Riders. Fun game, splendid game, as Miyamoto once said about Banjo Tooie. Um, Developed by Masahiro Sakurai, massive fan of him, big fan of his work. The guy from Smash Brothers and Kid Icarus Uprising. Kid Icarus Uprising being one of my favorite games of all time. Smash Brothers also being something I massively respect. Have a lot of respect for the director. So for him to be playing his first non-Smash project since Uprising back in 2012 was a treat. Just seeing what else he's capable of, but also to see how he returned to a previous game to give it its full potential, and I think he definitely succeeded on that front. I've always been enamored by Kirby Air Ride. Really wanted to try it. I think Riders has been like the perfect game in that regard. In the fact like it brought in pretty much all you could from the first one, but then add a lot more on top of that, making it so like you actually have a cast of playable characters rather than just Kirby's. Having all these machines with distinct attributes, they're not just different stats, they have like different properties and different playstyles, which is really fascinating. Um, what else? In terms of how I play the game, in terms of how you play the game, it just feels good. It just has a really good game feel to it. Hitting enemies to like go faster, racking up speed by like streamlining them feels good. Using your specials, gliding about when you can feels good. It just feels good. Like I said about Bonanza, having a good sense of game feel to your game is vital, I think. And Kirby Air Riders does that in spades, which I think Sakurai has down pat in anything he does. Um, let's see. Um, let me see. Let me go back to the tier list. Um, oops. Let me put that down. Just top quality in terms the main meat I'd say is the sea trial, and I think that's what's keeping people coming back. It's just a very chaotic mode, but it's one that's so unique and one that's like is still so fresh every time I play. The 5 minutes always fly by. They always do. It's so crazy. Every time I think about, well, should I pop over to this vehicle? Where should I? Which portion of the map should I prioritize? What kind of events are going to go on? Am I able to do the event well enough to secure the massive range of bonuses? Will it even matter in the final challenge? It's that kind of excitement that keeps me coming out to City Trial. That's not to downplay the general racing of it, which is weird that's not touted up further. And the general air ride mode, I do like. I do like the general racing of it. It feels good to race around. Once again, like having that one button just to stop and like that squeeze and release of a boost feels good. The fact that you're always thinking about, well, what character and air ride machine will make most sense for this specific map, I quite like. It makes it a bit more daunting than your standard kart racer, which is why I think I would still prefer Mario Kart as a casual play. But for with actual gamers, Kirby Air Ride is going to be a lot more fun. I feel like it does feel a lot more rich, a lot more content in its content, if that makes sense. Um, yeah, kind of gutted it's not getting any post-launch release because I feel like it could have done with maybe one more. I feel like the City Trial map could have been a bit larger, maybe. Because especially when you get a lot quicker, you're doing a lot of repeating the same sections every now and again. But I think that's to encourage you to take out your 15 other players. Um, I would have liked maybe. I think the only ones missing. I feel like there are some Kirby characters missing, and that's it. Like Evelyn from Forgotten Land, and also the two characters from Crystal Shards. The fact that they're not added was a bit weird. Um, but on the whole, I'm it's a good game, very worthwhile. I'm glad this was Sakurai's next game. I'm glad he did something other than Smash, to be honest. Because you see like the absolute care and attention put into detail in the Sakurai project. Like him and his team just know what the fuck is up, which is lovely. Really looking forward to seeing what he's cooking next, but that's a discussion for another time. Final two, fucking hell, right. I yap. I can yap for days. I need to make this my full-time gig and just yap endlessly. Right, Hades 2. Hades 1 is one of my favorite games of all time. Hades 2 has been on my radar forever, and I think Hades 2 has lived up to that. Because that it belongs in peak. Not best, not best, at least not yet. Um Definitely peak. Because it is admittedly more the same. More of peak is still peak though. What I appreciate about Hades 2 is that it has like a lot more content, a lot more new wrinkles to its gameplay. So obviously it has like new scenarios, which you would expect. But the fact that it also has like double the content with an entirely new run that you could be doing instead, which has its own set of gimmicks to take into account. On top of like new characters to go with and new boons to get, new synergies to come up with. The new wrinkles I enjoyed is the magic system. So you can do mega attacks, you can do casts, you do all sorts of extra things to make sure, just help you out in battle. It then ties into like new moon hex powers. So this is like after a certain charge, you gotta use like an extra like buff power, which is nice. Get to use familiars like little animals to help you out in your runs. Um, just a lot of like little extras that I really appreciate. Um, what else? Let me see. What else? Yeah, just everything. The new weapons are fun. The gameplay feels as smooth as ever. I thought the having a sprint wouldn't be that big of a deal, but it really is. Um, it's just top quality stuff all around. It really is. I've only done one completed run so far, and I can't wait to get back in because I love the first game. So Hades 2 should be higher, but similar to what I was talking about Split Fiction, my issue is that the novelty is gone. I think Hades 1 was so new to me. And it was such a special experience. I think Hades 2 doesn't quite match that experience, that first time experience. Not as bad. A lot of it is better. I can clearly see that. But it's a bit weird as well in that regard. So I can clearly see, well, gameplay wise, I'm preferring it over Hades 1 in a lot of regards. But there's a lot now where it's like, this feels, I don't know. The main thing where I'm definitely feeling like it's not hitting as hard is in the story. The story feels a lot more epic. It feels a lot more grand. There's a lot more moving parts in play. It feels like there's a lot more of an intriguing story here. And it feels like the quest to kill Kronos, it feels a lot more severe, and it does feel personal. It is personal stakes, but it does also feel like there's wider stakes there as well. I kind of prefer the stakes and the plot of the first game. The stakes felt very personal. It felt very intimate. Not massively. It wasn't like a world-shattering event. What happens? But for those that do know what Zagreus in the first game, the reason why he's trying to escape hell in the first place. When I figured out for the first time, I thought that was like such a sweet thing. I thought that was like such like an emotional hook, and I don't think Hades 2 quite has that. It does have an emotional hook. It does have a reason to try and like get new runs, get completed runs and everything to try and save Melonie's family. But because it isn't purely because of that, because you do have a very obvious villain, at least right now, it may change. You have a very obvious villain, you have a very obvious evil forces rather than someone that's just doing his job, like Hades, who's just doing his job just to make sure Zagreus is like grounded. Um, it feels a lot less personal, it feels a lot less intimate, and I think that's something I prefer over Hades 1, and something that feels like, oh, like I'm saving my family. Obviously very heroic. I have a lot more stakes, but only because I'm involved with the family from the first game. If otherwise, it would feel like a general saving my family in another plot. I don't think it would have been done as well. Apparently the plot isn't the best. Apparently, the new ending is kind of shite. Apparently, or they've at least changed it and it changes up some of the context. I'm not sure. I'm not too sure about that, but it is what it is. I don't know. Um, right. Let me see. But yeah, Hades 2, massive, massive recommendation. Loving it. So much of what it does is top quality. Same good quality from Hades 1, but there's so many cool, new, neat ideas that I think the sequel was justified, rather than just making something new. God, I'm hiccuping like anything. Oh, my voice is going. Last one, right, let's make it. Oh, fucking hell. Need to get a new headset. Last one, Metro Prime 4. Bottom of B. Bottom of B. Fuck's sake. Stop hiccuping. Bottom of B. Now, Metro Prime, at least remastered, I consider to be a very good game. Sorry for my hiccups. I don't know how long it's going to last for. I hope not for too much longer. I consider Metro Prime 4 to be a very incredible. Well, I consider Metro Prime 1 to be a very, very good game. I get why it's so revered. Looking at the games I played in 2023, I would definitely place it up with you places higher. I definitely respect it a lot, despite some of its issues. So, oh, for fuck's sake, come on. My hiccups are driving me fucking insane. So thankful no one's listening to this. Um, so, Metroid Prime 4 has obviously been on my radar for a good while. I got into Metroid series with Dread. At least when that was announced. I started off with Super Metroid that year. Played Metroid Dread later on that year when that came out in 2021. I've been playing Metroid games semi-frequently, so I've played Fusion and Zero Mission. I've also played Prime 1. And I have interest to play other games in the series as well. Um, So yeah, Prime 4's been on my radar. I feel like the fact they haven't brought out 2 and 3, that should have been a slam dunk. That should have been wise. But I'm gonna take that as a sign that I don't really need to, and it turns out I didn't need to as such. Um, it's just disappointing, to be honest. I'm glad I'm not a massive Metroid fan because I feel like I would have been massively disappointed by this. I'm not putting it there because at its core, it's still good. Um, hang on 1 second. I'm gonna move this down here. Is that better? I think that's better. Oh, fuck's sake. Well, my hiccup's not better, but I think at least this is. Let's see, how's that? That's better. Yeah, all the games are added. Get a nice complete picture. Now, oh, fuck's sake. I could probably keep it like this now, actually. Yeah, I don't need to worry about this. There we go. Where is it? Metro Prime 4. Positives. It at least looks absolutely gorgeous. At least on the Switch 2. Fuck's sake, why am I hiccuping? Fuck's sake. Um, it looks absolutely gorgeous. I think it looks stunning. I think it looks great. Nothing that nobody has said before. It's fine. Well, I say it's fine. It is gorgeous. It sounds great. I think some of the tracks feel very much Metroid Prime, which is really good to have. Um, and like Bonanza and Air Riders, sorry again. Um, game feel is important, and I think for the most part, Metroid Prime 4 has that down pat because in terms of like general gunplay and walking around, it's good. For fuck's sake. Um, and it is good, and some of the puzzles are good. The fights are good. The general sense of atmosphere I quite like. I'd be tempted to put it down to C actually. Now that I'm thinking about what I'm gonna be saying next, but overall it is good. If anything, it's the nuance where it's in between B and C. Um, Other than that, I just think the game is like absolutely bog standard. And when it's not standard Metroid, it's quite shit Metroid. Um, the main gimmick is well on the box arc um it's the psychic powers, which I feel like admittedly only comes into play story wise because it allows Samus to actually get information from a scan from the scans and the maps and all sorts, right? Um, Gameplay wise, it comes into part of moving locks around, which is lovely. Um, or moving moats about to open doors, which felt fucking whatever. But the main cool bit is having the control beam. So firing a laser beam and you're able to control your beam, weave around obstacles, hit multiple enemies like in a curved line. That bit was sick as fuck. That was a really cool ability. But every other ability is bog standard to me. I don't even feel too wowed by anything. I felt like I've already done this before in Metro Prime Remastered. The reason why it's not better than Metro Prime Remastered is because the environment itself is just so whatever. Like the actual individual areas, like Fury Greens, Storm, like Vault Forge, those kind of bits that look really pretty. I like they have their own unique things going on in relation to the world you're on. However, the sorry, oh, just had to move. There was a little bit of grey line on the left side there. The thing that's like really grinding me is that it just feels so disconnected, and that's because like the massive open world, um, Soul Valley, I believe it was, um, it just made everything feel so disconnected. It felt like I was playing a bite-sized Zelda game. I go to one area, I do it's like little dungeon or area. I do the thing, and then I beat the boss, and now I go. I return back to home base, I then set out to my next one to repeat the process. Oh, jeez, fucking hell. Really bad hiccups. I'm really thankful no one's, like, watching it now. Right. Blessing in disguise, I guess. Oh, I can start streaming and recording at the same time. Okay, that's gonna be helpful for next time. Um, what was it? But yeah, Silver Lane's just banned. Like, I get, like, oh, there's not much to do. I quite like driving around on Viola, admittedly. That's quite fun. It's quite zen. Smashing up green crystals for whatever the fuck reason. I get it's that story, but there's no real incentive. Um, yeah, so I believe what it was that, like, when it was first with Bandai, back in 2017, they were planning on making an open world, but Nintendo saw that, thought this isn't going to work, and then just passed the reins into retro. And then like so many fucked up things happened, like COVID, the fact that I had to keep the open world aspect to some degree, that must come into play. Because and that's annoying because there's a very clearly talented team here. There were some really good puzzles in there. There was some really good fight sequences, but it's just so mellow overall. It just feels so yeah. When I think about it, like I feel like I played it and it's like I got nothing from that experience. Like it's not even a good Metroidvania, and it's like if you're not a good Metroidvania, i.e. even a Metroid game, you know, it's in the namesake of the genre. Um, yeah, it was just not good. I'm hiccuping because I'm so mad. I imagine that's the reason why. Nothing, nothing else. Um, why? Yeah, I just didn't like I had an okay time with it. The more I think about it, actually, the more I'm thinking about, I'm putting it in B, uh, in C. Yeah, if it wasn't so pretty, I, I mean, I still liked it. It was still good. I still liked the action of it. The general story was okay. Again, not the focal point. I think the human characters were overblown. I think the human characters were fine. They were inoffensive. They may be likable. The only thing that was offensive about Miles was the like Marvel-esque quipping one that people were pissing their pants about at previews. The only thing I don't like about him is that with some of the new abilities you get, you collect the chips for like the fire, ice, and a shock ability. It's like cool, I got these. I can access new areas. No, you gotta return back to base camp, which takes its own while. So you gotta travel the desert from whichever place you were at. Gotta travel the desert. You gotta do like a little bit of walk up to access Fury Greens. When you access Fury Greens, that area, then you need to get onto like this little pod that will shoot you across the map to your home base in Fury Greens. Disembark in Fury Greens. Go to base camp, a little walk from there. Chat to Miles. Miles will upgrade your arm cannon, and then you do that long trek, walk out. You do that long walk out. You do that long walk out. Sorry, I see someone has joined us. I don't know who that is. Apologies for my hiccuping. I'm being so mad about Metro Prime 4 that I've just started hiccuping. So I apologize. Apologize if you've joined right at the end of the stream for a really naff experience. Um, yeah, I think on the whole there is a good game in there, and that's why I'm thinking at the bottom of B. But thinking about it in the realms between, it would be between C and B. There is a good game there, just under like a really shit and mediocre exoskeleton, I'd say. But I really want another one. I really want them to like actually give it another go, make Silex more intimidating, actually create a proper Metroidvania environment. And the reason why it's so frustrating is that I feel like the genre has popped off a lot. ever since Metro Prime 4 was even announced. You know, like Hollow Knight 1 and Silksong. Metro Dread came back. Um, so many indies are doing it. I don't know why I'm not thinking of anything. It should be bigger. Metroidvania, I should have more examples at hand. Prince of Persia, that's another key one. I wouldn't I wouldn't doubt Castlevania coming back as anytime soon. So the Metroidvania genre should be on the rise, and I think this is a very poor excuse for one. Even though Metroid Prime One translated Metroidvania into 3D perfectly, um, that's my beef. I think. Um, right. Let me see. 1057. I think that should do me. I think I'm okay with this. I'm okay. I think I'm okay with this ordering. To me, this is looking okay. That should be fine. Yeah, it's just, let me think. Chibi Rope. Would I place? Yeah, Metro Prime 4 definitely at the below. I still enjoyed shooting, going around shooting, bang, bang, and everything. So that's why it's still a B, and it could have been longer, admittedly. So I'm glad it wasn't longer. If anything, it should have been shorter. But that's like with the Zoe Valley Fair, and it's like whatever. For all it was, I still enjoyed it. There were still some good moments. I'm putting it in a B. But this is why I feel like I'm too positive of a person to be honest. If it wasn't any other YouTuber, it'll probably be in a D, depending on how I talked about it. Um, yeah, no, I'm quite happy. I'm happy with S and A. My only worries are with my B ordering. I think I'm happy with that though. Yeah, I'm happy with that ordering. Because B, it's weird. I don't think it's this taken at the top of B, but it's probably like the most satisfying B game because I don't really have anything bad to say about it. Hmm. I think I'm happy. Yeah, looking back at Xenoblade X, I'm not really too fussed about that experience. That was good. It was good, but nothing else. I think Rift of the Knife Dancer and Is This It Taken gave me more this year, mainly. Fuck, do I put Chibi Robo above it? Maybe. Nah, it's a little bit too samey for me. Chibi Robo was very charming though. Yeah, okay. Only bad one, Devil May Cry 2. In the C tier, Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour. Good little tech demo shouldn't have been priced. Devil May Cry, I get that's an action game classic, but just didn't hit for me. In B tier, Metro Prime 4 Beyond. Decent game and that's cool, but just ruined by like very bland design decisions. Castlevania Symphony of the Night, I get that's a classic. Glad I played it. Chibiro, very quirky, charming little game. Definitely recommend. Won't hit for everyone, but I imagine it like will hit heavily for certain people. Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition. Very glad I played it as a Xenoblade fan. Good that I appreciate that as a heavier emphasis on um, side quests. Definitely worthwhile as its own experience. Um, Rift of the Necrodancer next in B. Nice rhythm game. I like its own little twist with having the enemies having different tells and patterns and requirements to like take down in time with the rhythm. That was really unique and really well thought out. I'm looking forward to more collabs. Is this Seat Taken just a pure game full of like these really cool puzzles I enjoy in other puzzle games? Just done very neatly. In A, in the great tier, Pokemon Legends ZA really appreciated the real-time battles. I think it made battles a lot more distinct, especially in comparison to the rest of the mainline series. Marvel Rivals, really enjoyed getting back into the hero shooter genre. Especially, I don't know if I'll return to it, but for what it was really good, and it seems to be still be going strong. Hollow Knight Silksong, um, despite its difficulty, and that doesn't mean I did enjoy it. I think it can be a very satisfying game once you beat those challenges, and it is still a meticulously crafted game. I, I still have to respect it somewhat. Um, Next up, Inazuma 11 Victory Road. Just glad it actually exists. And that is as good as it is. If I was playing this for the first time, I would probably be putting it in B, maybe even C. But because I'm an Inazuma 11 fan, it does a lot for me. So this is why it'll be up here. Mario Kart World. It's Mario Kart. It plays good. It plays fun. I like what is done new to the series. A worse ad. Really hoping for new content in the future to really spice it up and make it reach its full potential. Kirby Air Riders. Sakurai's on it again. He's a madman. Just really fun and unique game. It does feel like it is niche, which is weird because I feel like a lot more people are opening up to more niche stuff. But even amongst that, Kirby Air Riders, I think is very well worth the time. UFO 50, just a wild collection of like all these different ideas. This mad amalgamation of all these different little games, and I've only played 20 out of the 50. But those 20 are like so unique and like so well designed that I just respect it immensely. At the end of A tier, right at the end, Donkey Kong Bonanza just feel good. I think that's one thing Nintendo does good is like they just make good fucking games. Wow, how it feels to play Donkey Kong Bonanza is very much that. Just feels good to rack shit up. S tier, my peak, my top four for this year. All new releases actually. I feel like in previous times I've at least had like one or two old games in S. At least somewhat old. Um, Split Fiction, just amazing ideas, amazing execution, spectacular final section, just an overall top quality package. Hades 2, sequel to one of my favorite games of all time, does everything it does, but just soups it up, kicks it up to 11. A lot of fun new abilities, new synergies, new interactions, new characters. Just loving it, and it's in the same sheer polish that the first one was known for. Cloud Obscure Expedition 33 took the world by storm this year, at least in the gaming circle, but for good reason. It's just spectacularly well made game. Um, a really cool, heart wrenching story. Really active and fun gameplay in the turn based battling system. I don't think it's one that's like, oh, save JRPGs, but it's a very good one, especially for one created outside of Japan, um, where Expedition 33's inspirations come from, right? Our final one, Game of the Year, and this is the best game I played this year, at least the one for me, the 100 Line Last Defense Academy. Just as a massive fan of both Uchikoshi and Kodaka and their works, having this combination on top of like all the other incredible talented writers that have created the routes and the character designer and the composer, just an insane game. Only 30 routes in, and I've got like about 70ish more. Just fantastic game, I think. Can't think of anything else that has like enraptured me more this year. To be honest, like it has invaded my mind in the same way as 100 Line Last Defense Academy. Um, so yeah, massive. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that's mainly it. That's mainly it. Donkey Kong 94, Mario 94. I just realized I didn't mention those. Donkey Kong 94 is good what I've played. Mario 94 is good what I've played. I will need to return to them sometime in the future. Would probably be B if I had them on there. That's about it. Right, that's it. Fucking out. Right, I think that's longer than last year's. How long was last year's? I think last year's was only 3 hours. Last year's was only 3 hours. I'm coming up to 3.5 hours, and I had less games. Fucking out. Right. What? Oh, jeez. Cat started screaming outside. Right, that should do me. Right. If you have been watching this via like a podcast or something, apologies for taking up your time. But I did hope you enjoyed watching along. Let me know if you guys would like any more streams in the future. Right, and that should do it for here. Feel free to follow me on Blue Sky, same username, Askebo. That should be fine.